All right, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Saturday afternoon live stream for Week 10 of the 2025 fantasy football season. For over the course of the next hour plus, we're talking all things fantasy football, whether it be trade questions, potential pickups in order to kind of set up your lineup going into this upcoming week with, of course, 4 teams on bye and a plethora of injuries hitting our rosters, but of course, also talking about starts and sits going into the given week. I see many of you guys who are already asking questions in the live chat. You guys know the deal. In order to get your questions answered, you got to include your scoring format, whether it is a half full standard league regarding per receptions. If you do have any bonuses, the more context you provide, the easier it'll be for not only myself, but other members of the community to help answer your questions. Again, there are many of experienced members in this community in the live chat as of right now, very familiar names. Hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Saturday. Again, before we go ahead and begin answering questions, like I typically like to do in the beginning of our Saturday morning live streams, is of course discuss a couple of the injury designations that were delivered as of yesterday's injury reports and how that's going to potentially impact and or potentially negatively or positively impact our prospects going into the given week. So let's go ahead and let's just talk about a couple of the names that popped up on the injury report in terms of defensive players that are certainly going to help the potential upside of our offensive prospects. So the Arizona Cardinals, to begin at the top of this conversation, Will Johnson and Max Melton, their literal 2 starting cornerbacks, are out this week. Jackson Smith and Jigba, and additionally, the potential of a Rashid Shaheed should both be in incredible positions to succeed. And the reason why that's the case, obviously JSN by himself is always going to succeed, but Rashid Shaheed joining a new offense, now that Torrey Horton is currently given the doubtful designation, likelihood is that he is not going to play. Yes, Cooper Kupp did get a full participation of practice on Friday, but he is going to primarily fit in as that slot receiving option. So there's even more upside for, again, Shaheed to find impact within this offense. And then another defensive starter for the Arizona Cardinals, Mac Wilson, starting linebacker, is going to be out. So, of course, that'll potentially increase the upside of someone like an A.J. Barner and, of course, Kenneth Walker effectively, whether they're covering or whether they're, of course, trying to stop the run. Now, in this game in specific, Seattle versus Arizona, I will like to let it be known, this may in fact be a rain game in Seattle. As to how heavy of a downpour, still to be determined. The game takes place at 1:05 p.m. PST Sunday. So in the event in which we are getting to the afternoon slate, of course you're going to play your studs, but I would say that the running game of the Seattle Seahawks is going to find a lot of success if in fact it becomes a downpour of an experience. Now, other potential members of defenses that are going to be missing that could give us a little bit of an extra dosage of, I would say, upside effectively. So obviously we know, let's see here. Okay, so one of the more important players that I mentioned earlier this week is Christian Gonzalez. As to whether or not he clears the concussion protocol tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really does upgrade the potential of Abuka, but additionally also Tez Johnson, whichever way we go about it. Additionally, on top of it, Rasul Douglas of the Miami Dolphins is going to be probably missing tomorrow, currently listed as doubtful. That does help the outside receiving options for effectively the Buffalo Bills, as untrustworthy as they are. We already know that Jordan Lewis is going to be out, so that's one of the primary starting cornerbacks of the Jacksonville Jaguars. That effectively does increase the potential for someone like Nico Collins to find success, even with Davis Mills as the quarterback position. Speaking of that game, another defender, specifically from the Houston side of the football, we're talking about Jalen Petrie, one of their starting safeties, but he is primarily their primary nickel cornerback. I think the absence of Jalen Petrie does give, in my opinion, Parker Washington a potential to be easily a top 24 finisher in a full PPR this upcoming week. That's how confident I am with Parker Washington, with no BTJ out there and Jacoby Myers pulling the primary coverage. There's a lot of potential there. So again, we're keeping an eye on all this as we proceed. In terms of other potential defenders that are gone out, obviously Kirby Joseph's going to miss like a 3rd consecutive week here. Nothing crazy there. DeForest Buckner, primary defensive lineman for the Colts, out. So it does potentially increase the upside of one Bijan Robinson. Outside of that, in terms of weather games tomorrow, New York at Chicago could be a snow game. Cleveland at the Jets is definitely going to be a rain game. So fire up not only Quinshon Judkins, but Breece Hall. And then Detroit at Washington could potentially be a rain game as well. We'll keep an eye on that as we get closer to Sunday. Again, there are other players offensively that are still questionable. There's a lot of limited participations on Friday that by the time we get to tomorrow morning, if not even later tonight, a lot of the insiders, the Ian Rappaports of the world are going to go ahead and designate whether those players are likely to play or not, and we'll get a better indication as to their status. Of course, we know that Ramondre Stevenson's not going to play, so for those of you who have Henderson, roll with him. But either way, if anything else comes to mind in terms of injury reports that I have gone ahead and accumulated over the course of yesterday, I'll be sure to go ahead and let you guys know. Outside of that, let's get into answering questions. I hope you guys are doing well. Again, one of you guys send in a question, make sure you include it within the super chat. And of course, make sure you include your scoring format. Otherwise, if it's not included, you can always type it in the chat afterward. That's greatly appreciated. Okay. Outside of that, again, if you guys want my Sunday morning rankings, be sure to check out Betr. At the end of today's live stream, I'll be putting together a couple plays there. I got a couple good ones, besides the ones that I included at the end of yesterday's episode. Again, if you guys haven't checked out my video from yesterday, it's in regards to potential trade targets based on the rest of season strength of schedule at all 4 primary positions: running back, wide receiver, tight end, and quarterback. So if you are looking for trade suggestions, I would point you in that direction to begin. Okay, let's go ahead and let's begin with Matt Glore, who sends in the first question of the day. Matt, here we go, brother. Says Parker Washington, Keenan Allen, or Josh Downs. I need a high floor. In a full PPR scoring format, Parker Washington with Jalen Petrie out is, in my opinion, a fantastic play, and I would rank him ahead of both Keenan Allen and Downs going into the given week. The order at which I would currently rank it, though, if I was to set it up, would be Parker Washington 1, Keenan Allen 2, and Downs 3 in a full PPR format. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Tic Tac sends in a question. Says PPR, why do you rank Theo Johnson ahead of Juwan Johnson? Well, okay, the primary reason is because when we talk about the potential of tight end success, it predominantly revolves around whether or not a tight end is scoring a touchdown. Like over the course of the season, the vast majority of the top 12 finishing tight ends have a touchdown within their scoreline. So when we're talking about Theo Johnson, who has scored 5 touchdowns in the last 6 games with Jackson Dart, the expectation is that if we're going to have a higher potential for touchdown upside in his favor, even in a full PPR scoring format, the upside at which that kind of presents on top of the normal utilization that he is getting, and the fact that Daniel Bellinger is dealing with an injury, is obviously going to, in my opinion, raise him above someone like Juwan Johnson, who in my opinion is still a fantastic play going into the given week, primarily because of the absence of Rashid Shaheed. Again, that's 30 targets being vacated, but a lot of those will probably go in the direction of either Brandon Cooks or Devon Bailey as alternative contributors within this offense, stepping up in the absence of Shaheed. But Juwan Johnson should be a solid option. Carolina Panthers matchup is solid itself, but ultimately, touchdown upside is the name of the game. And if you don't think that Theo Johnson will find himself in the end zone this week, or he doesn't have the greatest of upside to potentially accomplish that, I mean, I would say he probably does. Out of all of the New York Giants options, outside of Jackson Dart rushing touchdown, the next most likely thing to occur is a Theo Johnson receiving touchdown down in the red zone. I would say that if you don't think that he's going to score a touchdown, then yes, Juwan Johnson theoretically in a full PPR could very easily outscore him, purely based on the volume of receptions he'll be exposed to. All right, continuing on, we had a question from Death to Ming, who says, start Lad or ETN in the flex in a half PPR scoring format. As between the two of these options, typically in a half PPR, I would like to lean in the direction of the running back position, but in this case, I'm going to go with Ladd McConkey there between the two of them. I think Ladd McConkey's overall potential this week against such an advantageous matchup, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense and secondary. I mean, again, they are a top 3 matchup at the position. It goes to show, like, everyone is absolutely torching that defense. And I mean, even in really, yeah, it doesn't really matter. I understand this most recent week, the Colts turned over the ball 6 times, and still all 3 of their wide receivers dominated. I mean, essentially, I feel like regardless of how the game script goes, Justin Herbert's going to be airing it out. And considering Ladd has led the wide receiver position of this offense in terms of total targets for 4 consecutive games, it's just an automatic play there in my mind. Thank you. Ash sends in a question, says questions in the chat. Thank you. Okay, let's see what you have here, brother. Says, in a 10-team full PPR, I'm 5-4 with Pickens, Chase Brown, and Ferguson on a bye week. I need some help with tight end and 2 flex spots this week. I have Njoku, held in case he got traded, Fannin, Charbonnet. I have pending trade. Okay. So obviously in this current circumstance, you have 3 options here. My only question is, like, what are your alternative options? Who else can you go out and pick up and potentially play this week? Because otherwise, if these are your 3 best options, then obviously they're going to start effectively because you don't have Pickens, Chase Brown, or Ferguson. And unless you're going to look to trade these 3, which I wouldn't suggest you do so, I think it's actually wise to keep Pickens and Chase Brown. Even if you fall to 5-5, that's fine. You still have a relatively good shot of making the playoffs in a 10-team league with already accumulated 5 victories and in 4 games to continue on from weeks 11 through 14 to try to get yourself into a secure playoff positioning. But effectively, my only question here, Ash, is who else is available in your league? If you can just type it in the live chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. You don't have to send in another super. Just type it in the chat and I'll get back to that. Thank you. Sad Family sends it a question. Says, in a full PPR, should I start Fields, McCarthy, Mack, or Rodgers? Out of all these available options, I think there's a couple trains of thought that I have, okay? Aaron Rodgers, I'm not too interested in playing because, again, his overall upside has only ever been found very rarely in my mind. In comparison to the alternative three options, like Fields and his rushing potential is so vital to fantasy football and the potential of where he can go ahead and absolutely go off in a rain game, running around the field scrambling. But I'm not really too interested in playing Fields in comparison to McCarthy and Mack, who I have both ranked higher than him going into the given week. If I had to select one of the two, I would prefer to play Mac Jones based on his familiarity with the Los Angeles Rams defense, having cooked them for 300 plus passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns last time out against them. So between the potential 4 options, the way I which I would rank it would be Mac Jones 1, McCarthy 2, Fields 3, and Aaron Rodgers 4. Thank you. Eric Nixon sends a question. Eric, thank you very much. I appreciate it, sir. Says full PPR, 12 teams, 6 point per passing touchdown league. Record is 10-8. Week 9, 193 points. I drafted Burrows / dropped Stafford and Flacco. Oh, drafted Burrows and dropped him. Okay. I have quarterback Stafford and Flacco. Drop Kupp for Burrow or Purdy for playoffs or Mariota for week 11. That's a really good question. In regards to going forward, I'm going to continue to play Stafford and Flacco outright. In regards to potentially dropping someone like Cooper Kupp in order to pick up Purdy and or Burrow for the playoffs, let me look at their upcoming schedules in the fantasy playoffs. I'd be very much so interested in either of the two. I think Cooper Kupp does not provide enough value for me to justify him being on my roster, much less, especially with the Rashid Shaheed trade. And of course, the fact that he hasn't been very highly utilized even prior to that trade. It looks like, of course, Torrey Horton and Shaheed will continue to gain at least more momentum in their direction. But looking in regards to the potential fantasy playoff scheduling here for those 3 effective teams, I mean, just looking at the games ahead, if Burrow was to come back and take on Baltimore, Miami, and Arizona, again, I would assume he torches all 3, but the issue is their win-loss record going to justify them utilizing Joe Burrow and potentially re-aggravating any injury or anything like that to where he would have to have rehab in the offseason? I think there's a lesser likelihood in which that takes place rather than, of course, the 6-3, San Francisco 49ers putting themselves in a position, or what are they, 6? Are they 6-3? I think they are. Yeah, they haven't had a bye week yet. I'd rather pick up Purdy here. The 3 matchups he has is Tennessee, Indianapolis, Chicago. I'd be more than happy to fire him up against all 3 of those, especially assuming by the time we get to the fantasy playoffs, Pearsall and Ayuk are back. I think it's a perfect position for him to succeed. Thank you. Johnny Kilroy says, should I look to move Ibuka due to the Baker Mayfield recently? Due to the play Baker Mayfield recently, as well as the lack of Mike Evans. The only reason you would ever look to move Emeka Ibuka is if you're able to potentially actually get a top-tier wide receiver option in return. Like, I understand their upcoming schedule ahead, especially for the fantasy playoffs, is not the most vital, but by the time we get there, Mike Evans is going to be pulling number 1 coverage, and effectively on the opposite side of the field, Emeka Ibuka is going to be able to find himself with the number 2 cornerbacks that he'll be going ahead and dicing up. So I'm not too worried about his overall situation when we get to the later half of the schedule, unless you can theoretically move him for a player that is almost identical in terms of value at the top of that wide receiver conversation. I'm going to keep him. I mean, they're past their bye week, and he should continue to be the number 1 option even after Evans returns in terms of overall target opportunity and share in that regard. Thank you, Johnny. Johnny had a follow-up. Says, based on your rest of season video from yesterday, what do you think about my roster? We have May, Jefferson, Rice, CMC, Jacobs, McBride, Ibuka, Judkins, Jalen Warren. We have Diggs, we have Hampton, we have London, and we have Knicks. I think you're in a perfect position. I mean, genuinely, regardless of the rest of season strength of the schedule, this is the kind of roster I would like. I mean, not I would like to have. This is my dream roster to have going into any game. The fact that you have the talent of which you do, like, genuinely just start this roster blindly every game for the rest of the season. If they don't win you a championship, it was not your fault. It's just a matter of these studs couldn't get it done because you have too many good players. Like, at this point, I could even venture to say that there's a possibility with Hampton coming back, you may be in the business of after Judkins goes off this week against the Jets, you could ship him off alongside of Ibuka and just go get a Puka Nacua. I feel like that could genuinely be a trade of which you could look for. If you're playing in a double flex format, something of that exchange, then you keep what you have on roster. But I would look to try to go get the best players at the best positions. I mean, you already have Christian McCaffrey, Jacobs, McBride, and Rice, which are already top of the top. You would just be trying to inch that much closer to the peak of every position, which certainly can be accomplished with the roster you currently have there, Johnny. Thank you. Carlos Z sends in a question. Carlos, thank you, my man. All right, Carlos is in a half PPR. Flex 1, Henderson, Kenneth Walker, Teteroa McMillan, Quentin Johnson, or Romeo Doubs. In a half PPR scoring format, Teteroa McMillan is still questionable. I don't know if he's going to play. I think that's a matter of by the time we get to tomorrow morning, one of the insiders will definitely give us an indication whether he's going to play. But even if he does, I do not like the overall usage share that he has seen as of late, which keeps me a little bit less enticed about the potential of his upside. So when I look at the alternative options here, I'm probably going to lean in the direction of playing Kenneth Walker or Romeo Doubs. Kenneth Walker, because of course the matchup against the Arizona Cardinals is incredibly advantageous. I mean, if we're just looking at the overall production that we've seen in terms of running backs against Arizona recently, I think that in itself designates like this is a defense that's nearly allowing 5 yards per carry on average in the last 5 games. 2 opposing running backs. And then in terms of the most recent performances against them, from effective rushing opportunity backfields. I mean, we've seen enough production there to where Kenneth Walker in a rain game tomorrow should find himself in abundance of success. And of course, Romeo Doubs, considering Christian Watson, Dontavion Wicks, and of course, there's another cornerback on that roster. That's also, not cornerback, excuse me. Another wide receiver on that roster is a rookie that is also questionable with limited participation on Friday. If everyone's injured and additionally on top of that, Tucker Kraft is missing, I would assume that Doubs finds success. But if he has to take on the slew of cornerbacks that they've gone ahead and accumulated over the course of the last couple of weeks here, that's going to be a tough ask. So if it's me, I'm probably just going to roll with Kenneth Walker in this circumstance. Thank you, Carlos. Oni, what's up, my man? Says trade Matthew Stafford or Flacco plus Kenneth Walker or Charbonnet for Chase Brown. If so, what combination is more beneficial for me? I mean, ultimately, the beneficial situation is probably moving Flacco, because if you have Stafford on roster right now and you were to trade him, then you wouldn't have a quarterback this week. And then losing this week could be problematic. If that's not the case, I still am not so interested in probably keeping Flacco in comparison to Stafford, as I think they're both incredible and they're probably going to be very closely valued. I just like what the potential of Stafford is going forward, especially considering there's a possibility in which Burrow could return and sap the value of Flacco in the future. So in the event in which we were going to move a quarterback between the two, I'd much rather move Flacco, especially considering he did obviously sustain a shoulder injury, which could re-aggravate and become a problem. And then if I was going to give plus Kenneth Walker or Charbonnet, I would give away Charbonnet. I want to keep Kenneth Walker. Again, his most recent week's production in terms of opportunity, where he was getting set opportunities where he had not seen earlier this year prior to, of course, the game in which Charbonnet missed due to injury. I believe Kenneth Walker going forward is going to be a definite plus. So Flacco and Charbonnet for Chase Brown, automatically make that deal. I think that certainly helps you for the future. Thank you. Go Bills says, Kenneth Walker, ETN, DJ Moore, pick 1. I'm not so interested in DJ Moore. Again, I think I'm going to lessen the overall rankings of all of the receiving contributors within that game, because there is a possibility in which it becomes a snow game tomorrow in Chicago. Now, we're going to keep an eye on that tomorrow morning during our live stream. Do not forget, I'll be live streaming here tomorrow morning for 4 consecutive hours, starting from 6 a.m., because tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. PST, there is the Germany game between the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Atlanta Falcons. So I'll be here, of course, with rankings prior to that game and then rankings subsequently after, watching the game alongside of you guys, and of course answering questions for 4 straight hours. But in regards to the potential of these 3 alternative options, I feel like DJ Moore, with the snow potentially implicated, not as interesting in comparison to the alternative of playing one of these 2 running backs. If I was going to lean in the direction of one of these running backs, I think it depends. What are you in a full PPR? Yeah, Kenneth Walker doesn't see enough receiving utilization in this circumstance. I'd probably just play ETN in that case against Houston. Thank you. Adam Amar, what's up, Adam? Says, would you do Drake May, Stephon Diggs, and Trey Benson for Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown? Yeah, I would immediately. 1,000%, not even close. I would rather have Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, especially considering both of these players are past their bye week. Like, you're going to have to deal with, if in fact you're not already prepared for the fantasy playoffs, and by the time you get to week 14, if you're going to need a must win there, I don't want to have Diggs and Drake May suffering me a loss there because they're not available. And I honestly do believe that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown are more valuable than these two. And like I mentioned yesterday in my video, I'm not interested in rostering Trey Benson. primarily because his upcoming schedule is very much so muddy, and the backfield of the Arizona Cardinals is such a completely diluted situation with you don't know who's the starter. One week it's Bam Knight, the next week it's Michael Carter, the next week it's Michael Carter again, and then it's Bam Knight, and then it's DeMercado out of nowhere. Like, who knows? So yeah, I'll take that trade. Thank you. All right, continuing on, we had a question from Speak Your Piece who says, hey, Drew, Kyle Monangai or Alec Pierce in the flex full PPR? Woo! Listen, Kyle Monangai has himself a very justifiable position this week, primarily because, again, like I mentioned before, each of the last 2 games in which the New York Giants run-stop defense has taken on effective running games, San Francisco and Philadelphia, they have given up 10-plus fantasy points to 2 running backs in each of the last 2 games. So both Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift should be implicated for a very easy double-digit performance tomorrow. Of course, DeAndre Swift is healthy, had full participation of practice. I'm not worried about his overall utilization this week. So it's purely just a matter of, like, in a full PPR, can Alec Pierce's reception count be the difference maker to where he absolutely just outpaces him? These are the questions. Let's see here. Where do I have Monangai comparatively to Mr. Pierce? Yeah, as it stands, full PPR, with the way that I've kind of readjusted Monangai's projection, because it's going to be potentially a snow game there, so it like increases everybody's rushing attempt totals. At this point, yeah, I'd rather play Monangai this week. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's go Monangai. Alejo, what's up, my man? Says, in a full PPR, Rome Odunze or Chris Olave is my wide receiver 2 spot. I think it's, again, if the weather in Chicago is a snow-heavy game and it becomes a run-heavy approach, I think I'd rather just roll with Chris Olave in this circumstance. With a potential uptick of opportunity that he'll see in the absence of Shaheed, I think he'll be the more valuable of the two in a full PPR format. If it's a half PPR, I would think differently. Thank you. Flotation says, check X. Thanks, man. Hope you are well. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. Let's see what you have here, brother. How's it going, Flotation, in terms of the win-losses? Have we been able to stack a couple up since the trades that we've made? That's my only question here. Let me look at your roster. I'm going to zoom in on your win-loss record, 3-6. Okay, so we're still in the hunt. Okay, let's see what you have. Josh Allen, Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones, Amon-Ra, DJ Moore, Chris Olave, Mark Andrews, Woody Marks, Jackson Dart, and Texans defense. Yeah, I mean, look, this is the best your roster has looked, in my opinion, not only this season, but in the last 2 seasons. So this is as good of a team as you'll possibly get in this circumstance, considering all the injuries that you had to deal with this season already and you'll continue to deal with. So all in all, looking good in terms of the potential. Let's see what your question was to begin with. It says, full PPR starter sit advice, thoughts on the matchup, and anyone else you think I could do. In terms of potential pickups, if Parker Washington somehow out there, I would be willing to go and pick him up, and in a full PPR probably play him over a Woody Marks. But in the event in which somebody of that caliber is not available, I think you're in a fantastic position to succeed. Looking at the matchup as a whole, when the other team has to start Zacchaeus within one of their starting positions, I think it already kind of gives you a little bit of an edge or advantage in that circumstance. So going to hope that, of course, it continues to pile down in that direction. Thank you, Flotation. Appreciate it, my man. Denon, what's up? Says, who would you flex in a half PPR? Adunze, Tedero McMillan, Mason, Taylor, Parker Washington. I think, okay, so technically speaking, in a half PPR scoring format, I would probably have Adunze projected for a higher point total, but I could justify probably playing Parker Washington there. Mason Taylor, I'm not so interested in, because if the weather is going to be a little bit of a rainy situation, we already know that Justin Fields doesn't like throwing him the ball, especially on top of the fact that the only time that he was able to score a touchdown as of late within the Jets offense against Cincinnati was a pass from Breece Hall. So Tedero McMillan injury, Mason Taylor doesn't get much looks from Justin Fields. It's between Adunze and Parker Washington, which in a half PPR, technically Adunze should have more touchdown upside. So I'll probably lean in that direction, but I could justify playing Parker Washington there if you were worried about Adunze and if the weather tomorrow becomes an issue. Funny sends it a question. Says pick 2 in a 0.25 PPR format with Kenneth Walker, Rashad White, Henderson, and Monangai. Those are really good options. Okay, so here's the issue that which I currently am. It's not an issue. It's more of a dilemma, right? Going back and forth on the potential of Rashad White in the absence of Bucky Irving, taking on the New England Patriots is not a joke. So in a 0.25 PPR format, even if Rashad White catches the ball 5 times on Sunday, unless he scores a touchdown, the fact that this defense is allowing less than 3.2 yards per carry on average to running backs over the course of this season, I mean, I'm not really interested in playing Rashad White. I think he could be a trap this week. Henderson, again, is very much so in a sketchy position. If he gets enough receiving utilization, sure, but again, in a 0.25, don't love it. So it's between Monungai and it's between Kenneth Walker in this position, to which I think to myself, there's like guarantee 10 points here. I think it's also almost a guarantee 10 points here with Kenneth Walker. It becomes sketchy because, again, we have two-headed monsters. And it's really a matter of like who's going to find the most success within their backfields. I'd probably lean towards... Oh, goodness. What do I want to do? I think I want to play Monungai there. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to roll with Monungai. Especially if the weather is very much so... I mean, both these games are implicated for weather, to which it's pro running the ball. I want to play Monungai. I think he may get a lot more looks than people anticipate because of his performance last week, and still they're trying to like slowly work back DeAndre Swift, not trying to put too much of a workload on him coming off of the groin. I think they genuinely they litter Monungai with touches. I think that's the way I'm going this week. Thank you. Adrian Sanchez says, I have Pittman, Collins, and Waddle in my lineup with Diggs and Odunze on my bench. Sutton did me dirty. Trust me, all of us, brother, all of us. Should I change anything? I mean, with Pittman, Collins, and Waddle in your lineup, I think that's the perfect way to go about it. I wouldn't change anything. I would actually play it as such. You're good to go there, Adrian. Thank you. Yeah, going forward, Sutton, it's not really a matter of like Sutton isn't playing well. It's a matter of Bo Nix is Blow Nix, right? That's the problem. Thank you. Jersey B, what's up? Says Diggs a better play than Rome Odunze. Weather is iffy. I would say yes, he is a better play than Rome Odunze. Yeah, going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Kayshon Boutte out, I would lean in the direction of playing Stephon Diggs in this circumstance. Thank you. Russell Pace sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, I start Ladd McConkey / Waddle or Ladd and Monungai. In a full PPR scoring format, I'd prefer to play Waddle. Again, I think it's 4 of the last 5 games in which, in the absence of Tyreek Hill, 5+ receptions and 63+ receiving yards. So we have a baseline floor of 11 fantasy points already from Waddle, on top of anything extra that he'll be able to accomplish, whether it's touchdown, extra target upside, receptions, receiving yards, etc. So I think the floor of production that Waddle presents, and in his theoretical upside there being anywhere between a 11 to 21 point player, is very much so going to take the cake in this circumstance. I'll lean towards both the wide receivers in the full PPR there, Russell. Thank you, sir. PC sends in a question. Says Otton, Fannin, and Njoku if Fannin is out, or Jawan. Okay, in the event in which Fannin is out. Okay, so let's just start from the beginning. Okay, first and foremost, I'm going to play Cade Otton. Okay, out of all of them. In the event in which Fannin does not play tomorrow, I would play Njoku there. Even with the weather in New York, I would play Njoku there. But Otton would be my number one, assuming Fannin is still in the mix. Thank you. Gucci Han, what's up, my man? Says my guy in a full PPR, RB2, Terrell Jennings or Tyrone Tracy? That's a really good question. Here's the issue. Tyrone Tracy had himself not only out-snapped, but out-rushing attempted by Devin Singletary in this most recent game, which is very much so concerning because even the potential of Devin Singletary getting touches, he's not the greatest running back. So the fact that they are preferring him over Tyrone Tracy scares the crap out of me. So I feel like just objectively off of touches and utilization, I feel like Terrell Jennings is going to be exposed to more opportunity. And the fact that he fell into the end zone this most recent game does kind of give himself a little bit of an edge in this circumstance. Unless Tracy gets himself a ridiculous share of receiving utilization, which I don't think he will. Jackson Dart, a mobile quarterback, less likely to check it down. Maybe he gets himself 2 or 3 catches there, but unless a big play is to occur, I think Jennings is most likely the guy to which I'm playing. Thank you. Mo Money says, hey, Andrew, thanks for the help. Questions in the chat. Thank you, Mo. It says, send Kelsey and Slayton for Gadsden and Pearsall. If he declines, should I send Slayton for Pearsall? In a 5-4 10-team PPR double wide receiver, double flex format, we have Drake May, Judkins, Montgomery, Travion Henderson, Alvin Kamara, Harvey, JSN, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rome Odunze, and Slayton with Kelsey. I mean, looking forward, obviously, in terms of the potential of these 3 players, you're going to probably start Jason and Amon-Ra every single week a wide receiver. Judkins and Montgomery are probably going to be your 1-2 combos there. Travion Henderson could be flexible alongside of Rome Odunze. In the potential of which you are sending away Kelsey and bringing in Gadsden, I don't mind that trade ultimately. It's just purely a matter of like trading for Pearsall becomes a gamble. We don't know what his overall status is. Every single week, we hear more and more information from the coaching staff, and then additionally on top of it, from the GM, that seems seems like it's a very murky situation, to which I'm worried that even when Pearsall comes back, there may be a possibility in which, just putting it out there, maybe he's just not the same player. Maybe it's going to take an entire offseason for him to get back to his full self. That's my primary concern. So as of right now, in terms of this kind of a trade capacity, I think I just keep Kelce and Slayton going forward. Thank you. Especially with Slayton having the easiest strength of schedule going forward amongst all wide receivers. Says, how do we feel about the squad rest this season? Flotation, this is a really good-looking team, brother. I think the trades that you made earlier this season, bringing in Kyron, bringing in Olave, certainly does help. And the Shaheed trade most recently certainly does help you out. Once Ramondre's healthy, once Calvin Ridley's healthy, they can both absolutely contribute to your team in a positive manner. I think my only question just becomes like, can we secure a playoff positioning before Jackson Dart goes on his bye week? That's my only concern here, because the rest of your team is fantastic across the board. It's just like, yes, we have Tyler Shuck there for week 14, and hopefully he'll be good by the time we get there, but that's my only concern. Man, you also have T. Higgins. Brother, you're in a fantastic position. I'm really hoping that your team plays the way that they should, because you should be able to win out and make the playoffs. Absolutely. Alex sends in a question. It says, trade Gibbs and Odunze for JSN and Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, in terms of value across the board, I think JSN and Gibbs, I honestly think that JSN, especially in a full PPR, has more value for rest of season purposes. And then in regards to Odunze and Wan'Dale Robinson, if we're talking about a full PPR, I could also make the simple justification in which Wan'Dale Robinson has equal, if not more value than Odunze. So it just becomes a matter of like, can your running back depth sustain a loss of Gibbs? Do you have enough running backs to be able to take the loss there? And are both of these wide receivers that you're trading for going to immediately start? In the event in which you can start both of them, and Gibbs being lost in your overall backfield is not a huge overall kind of, it's not going to force you to play players like Nick Chubb or running back. You know what I mean? I'm not looking to try to struggle for running back weekly. If you have enough depth to justify it, I would make the trade in a full PPR. Give me Jason and Wan'Dale Robinson. Patrick 510, what's up, Patrick? Says, my Gibbs and Marvin Harrison for A-Chain and Waddle, I'm currently 4-5. I mean, looking at the upcoming schedule ahead, at a 4-5 record, if you're going to trade for A-Chain and Waddle, obviously you have to understand that you're going to lose the game against, in which the Miami Dolphins have an upcoming bye week here, right? So if we look at the upcoming schedule ahead, they're both going to be out on bye in week 12. Gibbs obviously is past his bye week, and so is Marvin Harrison. So as long as you're able to win this week, next week, week 13 and 14, you're able to win 4 of the next 5 games. Let's say you're playing in a 12-team league, 6 teams make the playoffs, or 10-team league, 6 teams make the playoffs. I think 7 or 8 wins can get it done. So you truly just need to win, and if you have a good volume of points, 4 on your team to break any tiebreakers. 7 wins, so 3 of the next 5 games, if you're able to find a victory there, I think it's very beneficial. Ultimately, though, if you're trying to make the playoffs, I think it probably might be in your best interest just to avoid the bye week apocalypse that Waddle and Achane could provide to you. But like I talked about yesterday in my rest of season strength of schedule video, I mean, ultimately, the upcoming schedule ahead for Achane is incredibly advantageous. For the next 6 games, top 12 RB matchups, and then the advantageous schedule for Waddle also proceeds with him having himself a pretty good kind of playoff schedule there. But again, it's not really something that you need to key in for. You need to try to just secure the coming weeks ahead. To which, let me go ahead and look at this. Let me pull this up real quickly in terms of Marvin Harrison's schedule here. If we look at weeks 10 through 14 for you, brother, 10 through 14 Arizona Cardinals, I mean, they have the 5th easiest strength of schedule. San Francisco, after this week, Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, LA Rams. I think it might be in your best interest to just keep. You could make this trade, but it just becomes sketchy for week 12. That's my only thought process. But if you think you can survive nonetheless afterward, or at least pick up the 3 wins that you need in the 4 other games that you play, then I'm fine with it. Because Achane and Waddle will be preferred for the fantasy playoffs comparatively to Marv and Gibb. Thanks. All right, let's see here. We had a question from J-Dog, who says in a full PPR, running back start and sit. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Judkins, Hall, and Dowdle. Brother. Okay, hold up. Really quickly, J-Dog, can we find a way to trade these players off our roster? Because you have too many good running backs. And with the fact in which you have too many good running backs, unfortunately, my positioning in this point is to probably play JT, Dowdle as the 1-2 combo, and then just flip a coin between Barkley and Judkins. Like, genuinely at that point. I think if it's my team, I probably roll with Judkins and hope he falls into the end zone twice. I think that's probably the way I go about it. Barkley sitting him in any given week is obviously dangerous, like the last time he came out and absolutely dominated against the Giants. But obviously the Packers have a little bit of a better run stop defense, like they should be. But again, this most recent week, Rico Dowdle absolutely dominated against them. So, I mean, if you're just trying to play your studs, you play JT, Barkley, and Dowdle and just roll with it. Judkins and Hall should probably be traded off your team to try to go get somebody else at wide receiver or tight end or quarterback. But effectively, you've just got too much talent here, and it makes it that much more of a difficulty, to which, it's a blessing and a curse. Just play your three studs. Barkley, JT, and Dowdle is probably the way to go. That's the way I'm going to have them ranked tomorrow. Dragon the Beast says pick one in the flex. Jacoby Myers, Breece Hall, Kyle Monangai. I'd go with Breece Hall out of the group. Thank you. SR20 Mar sends in a question. Let me go ahead and scroll back up to find that question. SR, thank you very much. Says, I need a flex between Zach Charbonnet, Colston Loveland, Parker Washington, and Tez Johnson. Okay, so Zach Charbonnet, not interested, even though he does have the opportunity to always fall into the end zone. In a full PPR, isn't exposed to as much, and if he doesn't fall into the end zone effectively, he's a 4-point player. Colston Loveland, again, this is going to be a true test as to whether or not he's going to be of value, because this week, Komet was able to clear the concussion protocol, and effectively the weather in that game does, in my opinion, downgrade his potential. So I've moved him down in my rankings. So of the available options, I'm going to play Parker Washington there with no Jalen Petrie covering him against Houston in a matchup in which, of course, the outside wide receivers, there's no BTJ out there. You just have Jacoby Myers and Diami Brown. Parker Washington should feast, along with the fact that, of course, the starting tight end, not Brenton Strange, but, of course, Hunter Long of the Jacksonville Jaguars is out this week as well. Parker Washington's the play. All right, let's see here. Edsy says, in a full PPR, I'm a little bit worried about Shakir not being needed versus Miami. I do agree there's a possibility of that. Would you play Cade Otton over him in the flex? Gonzalez is playing covering Abuka. Gonzalez is playing. Okay, yeah, if he was able to, let me see here. Christian Gonzalez concussion protocol. Let's see, is he able to clear it? Good to go against Tampa Bay. Okay, cool. So that does definitely downgrade the potential of Abuka. And it does potentially kind of give a little bit more credence to Cade Otton effectively. Am I willing to play Cade Otton over Khalil Shakir? My issue is that Cade Otton has not really been a touchdown scorer within this offense. A couple years ago, sure, but as of this, this most recent iteration of this offense, not really too much of a targeted threat within the red zone for them. But looking at my current flex rankings, is it a full PPR? It is. Let me see where I have Otton comparatively to Shakir. I mean, are they close? No. Because Shakir has that extra higher percentage look for touchdown upside comparatively. If you are assuming that Shakir doesn't get much utilization because they don't need him this week, then sure, you can justify playing Cade Otton there. But, I mean, if it's my team, man, that New England matchup is also pretty juicy. How do I want to go about this? I'm going to check something real quick. Let's see. Where do we have... Here we go. Let's go tight end. In terms of, let's filter this out for New England. I want to see what their deal is. If it's me, I'm probably still playing Shakir. In a full PPR, I think he has a base floor of 10 points. Touchdown upside on top of it, a little bit higher than Otton. I'd probably lean in that direction. Thank you. The Beer Guy says, trade Jamar Chase for Lamar Jackson and Justin Jefferson. I think you have to. I think out of principle, you have to. Especially if Lamar Jackson's a huge upgrade at quarterback, I would be willing to make this move because J.J. McCarthy will be enough because Justin Jefferson is effectively not only quarterback proof, but has an incredible strength of schedule ahead. So yeah, out of principle, I would make that trade. Kevin Smith, what's up? Says, any suggestions to upgrade? In a full PPR, I have Josh Allen, Jackson Dart, Tyler Warren, no, that's not Tyler Warren, it's Jalen Warren, Judkins, Hampton, we have Monangai, AJ Brown, Nico Collins, Gadsden, Jennings, Dobbs, and Shaheed. I mean, across the board, you have a top 2 quarterback for the rest of the season. You have Gadsden, who's a top 5 tight end, if not top 6 for the rest of the season in a full PPR format. You've got 2 of my favorite running backs going forward in terms of schedule. And once Hampton comes back, you're even more upgraded at that point. You have AJ Brown, Nico Collins, Jawan Jennings, Romeo Dobbs. Like I feel, and Rashid Shaheed. I don't think there's a necessity to have to make any moves in this circumstance. I mean, obviously, in the event in which possibly Shaheed does pop off and he becomes a point to where like you can bargain him with Monangai to like the DeAndre Swift manager to get back a singular piece, there's a possibility in which you could explore that. If you're not playing in a 2 QB league, now that Allen has passed his bye, needing to have Jackson Dart on roster is kind of irrelevant, to where you could also utilize him and send him to a team that is in need of a quarterback. Again, they have the second easiest strength of schedule at quarterback passing yardage wise going forward. So I think the potential of Dart feasting for the remainder of the season is probably relatively likely, to which you can sell him off of the back of that potential alongside of, a Monangai or a Shaheed or even a Dobbs in this circumstance, to go get an upgraded, either sending Dart and Monangai for a running back or Dobbs and Dart or Shaheed and Dart for a wide receiver in exchange here. Thank you, Kevin. All right, let's see here. Spencer James says, pick 3 in a full PPR. We have Alec Pierce, Quentin Johnston, Darius Slayton, Parker Washington. Slayton is on waivers, so who do I drop if you think Slayton is the play? I don't believe that Slayton is the play. I think the play out of the 3 in a full PPR scoring format is to go with Parker Washington, Quentin Johnston, and Alec Pierce as in that order. Parker Washington 1, Quentin Johnston 2, Alec Pierce 3. Darius Slayton would be the odd man out, primarily because of the weather implications in Chicago tomorrow. I think in the event in which the weather is clear, Darius Slayton could dominate against the number 3 wide receiver matchup at the position in terms of fantasy points per game allowed. I think Darius Slayton could absolutely dominate there, but effectively because of the fact that Quentin Johnston and Parker Washington are such solid plays there, and Alec Pierce plays as early as he does, I won't know what the weather looks like in Chicago to be able to make a justification there. And the fact that you would have to drop one here, I'm cool with keeping what you have out of these 3 options. Thank you, Spencer. Easy E says, where is Denver's defense? Question in the chat. They're there. What do you mean? I'm confused. Standard League. Where's the Denver offense? Brother, why am I so dyslexic? There's some times that I just cannot read. Where's the Denver offense? Brother, I don't know. That's a fantastic question. Someone needs to ask Sean Payton, for the love of, goodness. It's horrible. Standard League, wide receiver, okay. 3 wide receiver league. We have please rank Parker Washington, Tez Johnson, Malik Washington, Kendrick Bourne. We have Pearsall. Tedderell McMillan has a hamstring issue, and Carolina only passing 6 times per game to him. I know. And can pick up a wide receiver, and already we have Slayton and Christian Watson. In this circumstance, if I'm starting 3 wide receivers, I don't like anybody outside of Parker Washington and Tez Johnson. So, obviously, Pearsall is not playing. Tedderell was a questionable decision. Malik Washington, I'm not interested in. Kendrick Bourne, I'm not interested in. So, if I'm actually going to play a wide receiver, I would probably pick up and roll with Christian Watson there. So, Christian Watson, Parker Washington, and Tez Johnson. Those are the available options I'd go for. In the event in which I would look to potentially pivot out of a player, I'm dropping Malik Washington for Christian Watson there. Thank you. And then I'm also dropping Kendrick Bourne for Darius Slayton for rest of season purposes. Thank you. All right. Steven Rivera says, thoughts on trading Achane for Saquon in a full PPR 6 and 3? Yeah, I would. I'm talking about, just purely looking at the fantasy playoff schedule for Saquon Barkley. That in itself, I think, is convincing enough in my mind to feel the utmost confidence taking on Las Vegas, Washington, and Buffalo to where he would run through those defenses. Now, I will say the Miami Dolphins matchups against Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Tampa Bay. Cincinnati week 16 is beautiful, but Pittsburgh in week 15 could be a problem. We could end up seeing a problem there. But even in tough matchups, Achane is so matchup proof that there's a reason why in a full PPR, he is the number 3 overall running back and number 5 or 6 in terms of points per game on average. But I would genuinely, if it's my team, I'd rather have Saquon going forward. Flotation says Andrews has a good upside against Minnesota's defense. He should. In terms of overall success against tight ends lately, Minnesota has given up, this is a genuine statistic. Since the last 4 games of the season, Minnesota has given up 16.2 fantasy points per game and a half PPR to opposing tight ends. They've allowed 4 receiving touchdowns in 4 games. And on average, let me pull some stats here. Obviously, a lot of it done from Cleveland, but on average are giving up 6 receptions and 71 receiving yards and a touchdown to opposing tight ends over the course of the last 4 weeks. Thank you. Peter sends in a question, says, Tyler Warren, Addison, or Tedderell McMillan, if okay. Gadsden is my tight end. In the flex, I would play Tyler Warren there. Honestly. Thank you. FZ Ware sends in a question, says, again, I understand that the matchup against Atlanta is a disastrous one, but I would still have to play him. You could theoretically roll with Addison in this circumstance against Baltimore because of the advantageous nature and the negative game script of the circumstance, but I think I'd feel a little bit sketched out not rolling with Tyler Warren there. I think he can make some. I think he can make some noise. FC Ware says Abuka, Diggs, Parker Washington, or Goddard. I need a wide receiver in a flex and a full PPR. I played Sutton and Bowers already. So if we're looking for the utmost of potential upside, I mean, ultimately, I think I have to play Abuka because I just have to. I don't think I would ever get myself into a position where I don't play him. So out of the alternative available options at that point, do I want to play Dallas Goedert taking on Green Bay? I mean, I kind of want to, but I don't think it's a necessity of a play. I think it's probably Diggs and Abuka this week between your available options there. Thank you. Marvin Lewis, what's up, my man? Says in a standard league, start 2 flex and a tight end between White, Vidal, Addison, DeMercado, Pitts, and Juwan Johnson. Okay, so in a standard scoring format, 0 points per reception. The way that I probably go about this, my tight end is going to be, oh man, look, I want to play Kyle Pitts, and I probably am going to, considering the Colts have been absolutely battered by tight ends recently. So even against Juwan Johnson, yes, I'm going to play Kyle Pitts there. As for the alternative other options, I'm going to play Rashad White and Kamani Vidal. I just have to at that point. Thank you. Douglas Steele says in a full PPR, Zay Flowers or DeAndre Swift. I would rather play DeAndre Swift there against the New York Giants. Thank you. Johnny Kilroy says, you suggested Puka Nacua. How do we feel about his health? How about rest of season health? I mean, ultimately, this most recent kind of injury per se, it's not really an injury, but the fact that they had to hold him out was just precautionary. I understand that his health has certainly been a concern for the last 2 seasons here. Obviously, in 2024, missed a considerable amount of time with that knee injury. And then this season already, missing as much time as he has, a little bit concerning. But in my mind, he's just so much upside. He is literally the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy points per game on average when healthy. I'm still 100% in that direction to where if I can have him on roster, I'm comfortable with it. Frank Grillo says, Rashid Shaheed or Woody Marks in the flex. I would rather still play Woody Marks there. Here's my issue with Rashid Shaheed. Yes, there is a potential in which he could play well, but my issue is the weather in Seattle. The current implication is that that's going to be a rain game. If in fact it's a heavy rain game, it could impact the overall receiving upside there. So I'd rather just roll with Woody Marks in this circumstance just to be safe. Mo Money had a follow-up question. Mo, thank you very much. Says bench 1 in a full PPR, Montgomery, Travion Henderson, or Rome Odunze. I think it's probably... I think I bench Rome. I think I'd rather play both these guys. Thank you. Zolbu, what's up? Says, hi, Andrew. I need 1 wide receiver, 1 flex, and 1 tight end in a full PPR. We have Josh Downs, we have DJ Moore, Christian Kirk, Woody Marks, Dalton Schultz, and Keith Otten. Okay. Of your available options, Dalton Schultz is going to be my tight end play against Jacksonville, one of the top tier matchups at the position, even prior to this most recent game in which Brock Bowers delivered a 40-point game against them in a full PPR. Even prior to that, they were giving up their fair share of points to tight ends. But in regards to the alternative, other options, I would look to play probably either DJ Moore or Downs. Considering the weather in Chicago, I'm probably going to go Downs there as your wide receiver play and Woody Marks there as your flex play. So Downs, Marks, and Schultz. Thank you, Zolbu. I appreciate it, my man. All right, Franklin, what's up? Says, greetings. I need 2 from Henry, Swift, and Manungai. Also, I need 2 from Wan'Dale Robinson, Jennings, Pierce, Kittle, Gadsden, Abuka, full PPR, thanks. Brother. Okay, so we need 4 from this group. Out of this group of potential available options, I'm going to play Wan'Dale Robinson. Well, actually, here's the issue that I have. Wan'Dale Robinson weather is a little bit of a sketchy situation there. So, here's my thought process. Kittle, Gadsden, and Abuka, Franklin, are my 3 autos, okay? To which I'm not going to play Pierce, and I'm going to figure it out between Wan'Dale Robinson and Jennings. If Wan'Dale Robinson in the weather of that Chicago game is not a disaster, I would play him. In the event in which it is, I would pivot to playing Jennings there. Thank you. As for Henry, Swift, Manungai, I think you have to play Henry. That's obvious. As for Swift and Manungai, I don't like the potential of splitting the 2, but I mean, as of right now, I would probably look in the direction of playing Swift there because I think he's the primary goal line back when both are active. Thank you. Rudy says, Gibbs or Ladd for Buka and Cooks? Cooks or Cook? If that's James Cook, let me see, Rudy, did you end up correcting this? As long as that's not Brandon Cooks. If that's James Cook, I'm willing to make that trade. I think it's relatively equal. But ultimately, looking at both sides, I think I'd just rather keep the Ladd side going forward. Thank you. Giovanna says, Henderson or Watson full PPR? I would still stick with Travion Henderson in this circumstance. Thank you. The test one says Walker or Kyle Monangai in the flex. I'd prefer to play Kyle Monangai still there. Also sit DJ. DJ is in who? DJ Moore. I think it's probably in our better position to where if the weather is going to be a snow game there, running routes might be a little bit of a difficulty in the case of a DJ Moore. Not to say that he can't be handed off the ball or make a couple passing attempts like he did this most recent week, but I think, yes, it's probably a safer option there. Andrew Meyer says Mac Jones or JJ McCarthy. I have them ranked back-to-back. As it currently stands, I would probably lean in the direction of rather playing a JJ McCarthy in this circumstance. A Mac Jones in this circumstance. I was thinking JJ though, but yeah, they're back-to-back. I'm going to go Mac Jones there just because of the familiarity with that Rams defense and his ability with Kyle Shanahan to take advantage of it. So Mac Jones is my suggestion there, Andrew. Powerhouse, what's up? Says thoughts on trading Gibbs for Dowdle. Fair? I think it's technically fair, but I'm not interested in it. Like, I'd rather just keep Gibbs. I mean, if you want to go for Dowdle, you certainly can. I'm just a little bit sketched out. Again, I'd rather hitch my wagon to the potential of a Detroit offense with the upcoming schedule ahead. Frenzy 40K sends it a question. Frenzy says, sup, Andrew, questions in the chat. Thanks. Thank you, Frenzy. Says in a full PPR start 2 in the flex. I've got her as my tight end spot. I need one out of Vidal, JCM, Slayton, and or Kittle. I'd play Kittle there, genuinely. Says, so start 2 flex. And then if I'm going to play another option here, it's going to be Vidal. And then your other question says, I'm currently playing, I need to pick one out of Vidal. Oh, you need to pick one out of these options. So it's Kittle. Yeah, Kittle will be my play. It says, or do I swap Kittle at my tight end and go with one of the listed? No, I would play both Goddard and Kittle there. Those are the 2 best plays in my mind. Thank you. H-Star Team Productions says, 2-7, full PPR, 1 flex league. Started Harvey this week. Facepalm. Opponent has started Knicks. Okay. Kelsey's on a bye. Not sure who to drop. We have JJ. We have Flacco. Okay. We have Henry, Dowdle, Brown, Harvey. You played Harvey this week? What, in the flex? We have Buka, Quentin Johnston, Debo, Dobbs, Jennings. You played Harvey in the flex? Oof, brother. In a PPR, I would just say that's probably just always the sketchiest go about because touchdown upside is so difficult to predict. But in regards to how we're going about this roster, obviously you're going to play JJ McCarthy. You're going to play Henry and Dowdle as your 2 starting running backs. You're going to play Abuka alongside of Quentin Johnston as your 2 starting wide receivers. If you have another available spot for your flex, I would play Jennings there. And then as for your tight end position, Juwan Johnson, K. Dotton, Hunter Henry, Theo Johnson, I'm playing Theo Johnson there. That's who I'm picking up and playing. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Nijaz Most says, sup, Andrew? Full PPR, wide receiver Rice, Myers, Tillman, Golden, Tedero, McMillan. Running backs are Bijan, Judkins, Kyron Marks. Would you trade Marks for Juwan Jennings? No, I wouldn't. In this circumstance, I don't think it's okay, here's the thing. Your wide receivers are in shambles. Actually, you know what? Now that I look at it, Myers is unplayable. Tillman is unplayable. Golden is unplayable. Tedero McMillan's injured, but also additionally unplayable because of the opportunity share. And you desperately need wide receiver. Oh, man. You don't even need Marks for rest of season purposes because you have enough depth with these 3. Sure. If that's the best wide receiver you can get in exchange, I'm okay with it. I think you need it because at this point, if you're in a desperate need for wide receiver to where you need to help win this week, if Tet misses and Rice is out and you've got to start 2 of these 3, I don't trust them enough to where I'd be able to get a victory this week. So yeah, let's make the move for Juwan Jennings there. As much as I don't like it and I think you're maybe overpaying, because if Pearsall and Ayuk come back and completely siphon all of Juwan Jennings' value in the late term of the season, could be sketchy, but in the short term, in order to pick up wins, I think it might be the necessary move here. OJ Running says, in a full PPR, if McMillan is out, Slayton, Jennings, or Pierce. Out of those 3 available options, under the assumption that McMillan is out, I would probably position myself to go Jennings 1, Pierce 2, and Slayton 3. Thank you. H13 had a follow-up, says, I'm 7-2 in this league. Full PPR double flex format with Justin Herbert, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, Montgomery, Tank Bigsby, and Bayshall Tootin. Wide receivers are Rice, Quentin Johnston, Downs, J-Mo, and Watson. Tight end is McBride and Pitts. Moves to make, ? Also, start 2 out of Downs, J-Mo, and Christian Watson. It would be J-Mo and Downs as your 2 primary starters there. In regards to any moves to theoretically make in this circumstance, I wouldn't. I think Saquon, Kyron, and Montgomery is necessary to keep on roster, primarily because I need Montgomery in case something is to happen to Saquon or Kyron. Herbo is great for rest of season. Obviously has an upcoming bye, so we need to pick up a quarterback as a backup here in week 12. Rice, Quentin Johnston, Downs, J-Mo. This will be, so the only thing that you're looking to do is probably move Pitts after this week. Let him go off against Indianapolis and ship him off. And then also, I would suggest in the event in which you are playing a full PPR, if between Downs, JMO, and Christian Watson, if you have a question regarding flex, like if I'm going to play Herbo, Saquon, Kyron, then play Quentin Johnston. Actually, no, you already know what you're doing. You're fine. Okay, good to go. Matt sends in a question, says Hall, Bowers, Rome, or ETN, McBride, Abuka. I would rather have ETN, McBride, Abuka for rest of season purposes. Thank you. Alan sends in a question, says in a full PPR, I need a wide receiver in a flex between Zarius Slayton, Parker Washington, Zach Charbonnet, Christian Watson, Devin Singletary, and Demario Douglas. For the wide receiver, I'm playing Parker Washington there easily in a full PPR. As for the flex position, under the assumption that the weather wasn't a disaster in Chicago tomorrow, I would probably play Darius Slayton. But in the event in which it is, I would probably position myself to play Christian Watson instead. Thank you. Weston Nelson sends in a question. Thank you, Weston. I appreciate it. Says, I'm 3-6 in a full PPR. Do I sell Bijan Robinson for Rico and Swift and another maybe wide receiver? I currently have Chase Brown on bye. Thanks, man. In this current position to where you are 3-6 and you may need a abundance of depth, going after the potential Rico, Dowdle, Swift, and maybe a wide receiver, if you can get Rico, Swift, and a wide receiver, then I would be willing to make the move. But understand that, of course, upcoming ahead is a Rico Dowdle bye week in week 14. But by the time we get to week 14, if you're able to string together 4 victories in a row and get into the playoffs with a 7-7 record, I think it's still worth it to where you're getting enough depth back to where once Chase Brown returns from bye week this week, starting week 11 and beyond, you'd be starting Rico, Swift, and Chase Brown as your 2 RBs in flex. You'd be able to get a wide receiver that maybe can provide some depth for an upcoming bye week here, or of course be an automatic starter. I'd be willing to make that move. I think the overall value point of what all 3 of these contributors could make towards your team is sufficient enough to justify the trade of which you were giving away Bijan there. Thank you. Coolest nerd ever says questions in the chat. Broham, thank you very much. Baker or Caleb? I think it depends on weather. Again, if the weather in that overall game is going to be a little bit disastrous, I would rather just play Baker at that point. If it's going to be a snow game, it's going to be a run-heavy approach, I think Baker's probably the preferred. As for I need 2 wide receivers and a half PPR between Ladd, DK Rome, and Garrett Wilson, that is also okay, so Ladd McConkey is the auto start in my mind, to which then it becomes a matter of, am I playing DK Metcalf or am I playing Garrett Wilson? To which I would like to play Garrett Wilson if the weather in New York is not a disaster tomorrow morning. If it's okay and it's sustainable, I'd play Garrett Wilson. Otherwise, I'd pivot to playing DK Metcalf. Thank you. Also, Pitts or Loveland. With Cole Kmet coming off of the concussion protocol, I would rather play Pitts against Indianapolis tomorrow. Thank you. Rudy sends in a question, says, full PPR, Flowers plus ETN for Judkins and Kittle. Yeah, I would say 100%. I'm down to get Judkins and Kittle for rest of the season. I think Judkins and ETN have relatively comparable value, but Judkins will get the slight edge because of the upcoming matchups ahead. And then being able to get Kittle in a buy low capacity in this circumstance, to which you're upgrading tight end and wide receiver's not going to be in a complete shambles situation because of Flowers. Yeah, I'll take the Judkins and Kittle side for rest of season purposes. Thank you. All right, we've effectively caught up. I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. Again, we're about an hour into the live stream. If you guys haven't gone ahead and clicked the like button yet already, you can do me a favor and click that. Again, do not forget, tomorrow morning, I'll be back here on the channel, live streaming as early as 6 a.m. PST for 4 consecutive hours, as tomorrow morning there is a game between the Colts and the Atlanta Falcons in Germany. So make sure your lineups are set prior to the 6:30 a.m. PST start of that, of the matchup, because again, you won't be able to change it afterward if, in fact, you have players on the Colts sitting on your bench that you would look to plan to potentially play tomorrow. Thank you. Let's see here. What wide receiver can Marks fetch me? First question. Yeah, okay. So from the first question. In regards to potential... Well, look, here's the issue. Woody Marks hasn't played well enough as of late to where he can fetch you too much. I just think that, like, is Jawan Jennings my answer there? To which he's going to give, like... I guess... then technically, looking at Woody Marks in a half PPR, 11-13-2. Yeah, the most recent week against Denver was a disaster, but ultimately the game with CJ Stroud going out became a disastrous kind of situation. If I was going to potentially try to fetch a wide receiver in this circumstance, let's see what I can point you in the direction of. That's not what I wanted to do. My apologies. I wanted to go here. Just check this out. Looking at the rest of your team, you have Rice, Myers, Tillman, Golden, Tedderell, McMillan. Okay, so if you have all those potential options on roster, the then most valuable position to be in terms of wide receivers to get, in the event in which Quentin Johnston is available, I'd go for that. I'd be very much so interested in seeing if Rome Odunze is like, if the manager is crashed out by now. Just, again, it may not happen. It probably won't happen, but I would go knock on the door. Outside of those potential options, I'd go and see if you can get Flowers, knock on that door. And then, worst case scenario, I honestly feel better about Jordan Addison than Juwan Jennings going forward. So those are the names that I would give you. See if you can knock on those doors and see what you can come up with. If none of those are available, then we just settle with Jennings. Thank you. All right, let's see your fantasy forecast. Says PPR Manangai or Rashad White. Ooh, man, I think I'm worried about Rashad White being a trap. But in the absence of Bucky Irving, can I actually justify not playing him? Oof. That's a tough one. I think Rashad White's a little bit of a difficult play because of the lack of rushing upside he's going to find. How do I want to go about this? In a full PPR, I think I'm going to play Rashad White there. I know it's sketchy. I think he probably catches the ball 5 times because of the lack of a running game. And if there's going to be a goal line attempt, it would go in his direction. I think they're close, but I'm going to lean towards White there. Thank you. Flotation says, does it make sense to bench Marks for T. Jennings or DS? Darius Slayton? No. In the event in which Darius Slayton is in a game where there's not going to be heavy snow tomorrow, then sure, it's justifiable. But otherwise, I wouldn't play Terrell Jennings over Woody Marks. Thank you. Senior Kickoff sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says PPR, I've got Hurts, Bijan, Etienne, Judkins, Marks, Rice, AJ Brown, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Metcalf, Gadsden. Okay, pretty good looking team. Got offered Jamar Chase for Higgins, Brown, and Judkins. No, thank you. I would rather have Higgins, Brown, and Judkins because here's the logic here, okay? Looking at the roster as a whole, Bijan and Etienne being my starters is great, but there are some matchups here ahead which I'd rather play Bijan and Judkins. And having the flexibility there is just purely more valuable, even though, like, theoretically speaking, you can have Rice and Jamar Chase as your wide receivers, Brian... Jeez, my Louise. Bijan and Etienne as my running backs. I think you are just objectively giving away too much in this circumstance. It's not worth just Jamar Chase. If they were going to give you a running back in exchange as well, or maybe let's say, for example, they were like, oh, I'll give you Jamar Chase for Higgins and Brown. At that point, I'd be like, okay, we can make that deal because you will still have Rice, Jamar Chase, and Metcalf for rest of season purposes. But ultimately, no, I would rather just have these 3 options going forward for my roster. Chris Owen says, I noticed you didn't include Chris Godwin in your top 40 wide receiver video this week. Is that because even though he could be healthy, you think that the Bucs aren't going to use him? He's not playing this week. He's out. He's already been designated out, brother. He didn't practice a single time this week. He's injured. So that's why. By the time we got to Wednesday's wide receiver rankings video, prior to the video recording, he didn't practice. So I already knew from that point forward he's not going to play. So yeah, he's already been designated out. He's not playing this week. He probably won't play next week, even if he practices. So that's the reason why I didn't have him included. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. If you have any other questions, let me know. All right, continuing on. We had a question from Lank Dog, who says, hey, Andrew. Oh, you know what I forgot earlier? I forgot to answer a question or the follow-up question to Ash. Ash, here we go. Says the pending trade is send Woody Marks for Shaheed. Can pick up Juwan Johnson? Okay, sending Woody Marks for Shaheed. Okay, so looking at the team as a whole, okay, it says can pick up Juwan Johnson, Mooney, Kirk, Tillman, or Douglas. I don't like any of those options. I mean, I like Juwan Johnson, but outside of that, it's a little bit sketchy. Was one from the first Super Chats. Follow-up question, FYI. Yeah, I got you. Sorry about that, Ash. I completely forgot about it. So in regards to the potential of making a move here in which we need to tight end into flex options, in your circumstance here, I would feel probably most comfortable playing Fandon as my... Actually, no, I want to play Juwan Johnson as my tight end. So if I can pick him up and play him here, I would do so. And then within my flex position, I'd probably go Fannin and Charbonnet. If you want, you could theoretically play 3 tight ends and just go Juwan Johnson, Fannin, and Njoku. But my only question would be like, do you have to drop one of those 2 tight ends to pick up Juwan Johnson, or do you have an available spot on your team? Actually, no, you have Shaheed coming in too. So technically, it would be Juwan Johnson at tight end, Shaheed as my first flex, and then Fannin as my second flex, and then you would just drop Njoku to accomplish that. Technically. But if Fannin is out, then Njoku would start instead of him. So it becomes a little bit of a sketchier situation there. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, going back to the updated chat questions, we had one that came in from Lankdog, who says, "Hey Andrew, how would you set up my lineup for this week? In a full PPR double flex format, we have Gibbs, Rico, Swift, Monangai, London, Ibuka, Slayton, Tedero, McMillan, likely Njoku. Keep up the great work, brother. Thank you very much." Okay, Lankdog, I'm playing objectively Njoku at my tight end position. As my 2 running backs, I am playing Gibbs and Rico. In my 2 wide receiver positions, I am playing London and Ibuka. And then within the flex position, I'm playing both Swift and Monangai. Thank you. Thanks for the help. I appreciate it. No problem. Glad to help. H13 says, follow up from question for the 2 and 7 team. Who would you drop for Theo Johnson, Jennings or Dobbs? Oof. Goodness. Let me look at the rest of the team just so I know what I'm looking at. I don't want to drop Dobbs, by the way. So in the event in which you are theoretically making a swap, Jennings would be the man that gets axed in that situation. Or don't want to drop Flacco. Played Harvey because it was the Raiders. No, I understand that. I get it. But yeah, it was rough. In regards to the overall situation, if I was going to pick up Theo Johnson in order to play him this week, and I needed to drop a player and I'm not looking to drop Flacco, I'm dropping Jennings before I drop Dobbs. 10 times out of 10. Thank you. PC says Monangai, Pierce, or Slayton in the flex. I'm going to play Monangai there. Thank you, PC. Bob says full PPR, Dowdle or Monangai. I'd much rather play Dowdle if Swift is out. Swift is not going to be out. He's going to play. The only reason he missed Friday's practice was a personal reason. So unless that personal reason is to hold him out, he did get a full participation in practice on Thursday. So I'm expecting Dowdle to be the better play here against the New Orleans Saints. Darnold, Flacco, Aaron Rodgers also took a chance on Pearsall trading away Tracy. Okay. I think that's a decent chance to take there, Bob. In regards to Darnold, Flacco, or Rodgers next week, let me look at NFL Week 11 schedule, and I'll let you know right now as to which. There we go. Looking at the schedule ahead. So we have Darnold taking on the Rams. Then we have Flacco taking on the Steelers again. And then we have Aaron Rodgers taking on... Where's Rodgers? Where's Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh's taking... Oh, yeah, Bengals. Yeah, out of those available options, I'd play Flacco against the Steelers. Again, last time out, he went for a nuclear performance. I'd assume he's going to do it again. Thank you. Again, I'm sure that defense will try to, strap up their helmets and play a little bit more coverage on T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but ultimately, they just don't have the personnel to be able to accomplish that. Thank you. Vlad, what's up? Vlad sends in a question, says half PPR. Thanks, send your questions in the chat. I don't see your question here, Vlad. If you could do me a favor and retype it in, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks, man. Samaj sends in a question, says PPR, thanks. Okay, let's see what you have here. Andrew, your rule man, thank you very much. Let's see. It says, which tight end are you starting this week from this bunch, and who would start rest of season? Loveland, Musgrave, Otten, Hawkinson, Schultz, and Njoku. Out of the available options, it's going to be Schultz this week. Out of rest of season potential, it's either Loveland or Musgrave. I think Musgrave, again, is a little bit of a, we have to wait and see how they want to deploy him. They could utilize him as like a deep receiving threat as a field stretcher. He's not going to function in the same role which like Kraft does, because I don't think he's as good after the catch. But in regards to again, I don't think anybody's as good as Kraft after the catch. But in regards to like Loveland, I would hope that his most recent performance has kind of designated him to be the guy going forward. So I would assume either of these two are the best rest of season. If I had to pick between the two, I would say Loveland. But for this week, I'm going to lean towards Schultz there against Jacksonville. Thank you so much. Let's hear. Henry Odom says, Harrison Jr., Laporta, Walker, full PPR flex. I'm going to play Laporta there, genuinely. I think Sam Laporta is the better play against Washington, who cannot stop an opposing tight end in a game in which should be an absolute light-up matchup for Goff. Laporta should find himself with a touchdown for now. I mean, he's done it in 3 of the last 4, should be 4 of the last 5 after this week. Now, I will say Walker and Harrison are both incredible plays, especially considering There's a couple injuries in the secondary of the Seattle Seahawks, but still, Laporte is the play there. Thank you. Chinko410 says, pick one for the flex, full PPR, Charbonnet, Woody, Downs, Watson, Fannin. Out of these available options in a full PPR, it's between Woody and Downs in my mind. Between the two of them, I would feel a little bit more comfortable with the overall touching opportunity, which Woody would be exposed to. But the way that Downs has been playing as of late, very much so touchdown dependent. Yeah, I'm going to play Woody Marks there out of these available options. Thank you. Akshay, what's up, my man? Actually says questions in the chat. Whenever you get an opportunity to type it in, do me a favor and do that. Thank you. All right, Vlad says, I need one in a full, let's see, is there a scoring format here? It says half PPR. Cool. Says, I need to fill one running back and one flex. Choose two between Swift, Monangai, Etienne, Laporta, Vidal. Jeez Louise, brother. You've got some really good options here. So here is the dilemma that I have. The dilemma is you're starting Gadsden, which again, I prefer Laporta, but here, to each their own. Doesn't matter. In regards to how we go about this, I think it's probably in your best interest to start both Swift and Monangai to where you get no leakage there. Even though I do believe Etienne is a better play than both of these running backs, I think there is a justification to where you start both running backs of the Bears. So regardless of who steals the touchdown, you are in a perfect position to succeed. And considering both of the backfields of San Francisco and Philadelphia in the last two games against the New York Giants run stop defense have both their backfields they both produced a singular running back that scored 30 plus fantasy points. I think it's just justifiable to just get all the value here and just go Swift Monangai. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. We continue on with a question from Nalma. 103 Nalma, thank you. Says, you skipped me. Did I really? Hold up. Let me go back up. Because if I skipped you, then I skipped somebody else. DS is Devin Singletary. I skipped a couple people. My apologies there, Nalma. Let me go back up here. I think it just updated differently. Okay, so let's see your question. It says, okay, so start in the full PPR, Brissett or Baker? That's a really good question. I'm probably leaning towards Baker because there's a possible rain implication for Seattle. So Baker's my suggestion there. Addison or Christian Watson? I'd rather play Addison there this week. And who will be Arizona's RB1? I have Amari DeMercado, Bam Knight. Keep in mind I have McBride. I would probably assume that Amari DeMercado would be the RB1 this week, as that is how he was primarily deployed last week as a primary runner. So, but I don't like him this week, I will tell you, because Seattle's got an incredible run stop defense, and I assume that he's not going to play incredibly well. Appreciate it. All right, let's see here. Flotation says DS is Devin Singletary. So, in regards to the potential of Devin Singletary, let me go back to your team and let me look at it real quick. Okay, Devin Singletary. Don't want to play him. Nope, not interested. Everybody else is justifiable. Keep Woody Marks in there, brother. You're good. Thank you. All right, continuing on, we had a question. Okay, so we got to Noma. Noma, I apologize about that. That was just a scrolling error at that point. Manana says, I need a okay, in my second league, I have a quarterback of May, Stafford, running backs Taylor, Cook, Henderson, Monangai, Chase, Pickens, Ibuka, Adunze, Devontae Smith, Wanda Robinson, tight end McBride, Gadsden. Start ? Okay, so going into this week, Drake May is starting at quarterback for me. Jonathan Taylor, James Cook are my running backs. Wide receivers are going to be Ibuka alongside of Devontae Smith. And then I'm playing McBride at tight end and Gadsden in my flex. Thank you. Emily Doyle says, Harrison Jr., Kincaid, or Rachaad White in the flex, half PPR. I think I'd probably just go with Rachaad White there. I have a hard time not playing him. I think there's just a volume of touches he'll be exposed to is very difficult for me not to go in that direction. When I say touches, I mean just total rushing attempts and receptions he'll be exposed to. Unless either of these two guys score touchdowns, I feel like it's difficult for them to outscore Rachaad White this week. Beastul Fonda says, half PPR, Aaron Jones, Flowers, Diggs, Shakir, pick 3. Out of the available options, I probably have Shakir as the odd man out. I play everybody else. Give me Aaron Jones, give me Flowers, give me Diggs. Thank you. Alrighty, effectively catching up slowly but surely. We've been here for about an hour and 19 minutes. I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel in this regard. What I wanted to go ahead and do, like I mentioned at the beginning of today's episode, is put together a couple plays via Betr, or at least share with you guys what I've gone ahead and built going into this week, because there's a couple plays in which, in my mind, are relatively advantageous that I kind of want to share with you guys. So let's go ahead. Let me change a couple of the graphics here. I need to throw this up here, and then I need to effectively travel here. Again, like I've mentioned before to you guys, if you sign up today using code Andrew, make that first time deposit a minimum of 10, you'll not only be able to get my rankings every single Sunday morning, but of course be able to take advantage of the couple of plays that we're making going into these given weeks. In regards to that's not the right one. I think it's this one. Here we go. So in regards to the potential play that I like going into this week, I shared this earlier and potentially it's on the screen. Yeah, so I've got a couple plays today. First and foremost, let's talk about basketball, okay? DeAndre Ayton, more than 24.5 points and rebounds. Murphy, more than 3.5 assists. And I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name, but he's an absolute demon, more than 9.5 points, okay? He's been on a streak. I'm running with that. Anyway, that's an NBA play. In regards to the play that I put together yesterday, in regards to the episode at the end of it, okay? Kincaid, more than 3.5 receptions. Daniel Jones, more than 224.5 passing yards. And Chris Olave, more than 49.5 receiving yards. Let me go ahead and explain to you how I came to the conclusion of literally putting down a $100 play in this circumstance. So, in regards to the potential of these three options, okay? Let me go ahead and let me open up my stats from yesterday just so I can kind of reference point to them. Okay, here it is. So let's begin with the potential of Dalton Kincaid there, because again, I mentioned it yesterday. Dalton Kincaid in his career has literally never had a game less than 4 receptions against the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are one of the best matchups at the position, as over the course of the last 4 games, they have allowed 7.5 receptions per game to opposing tight ends. So I would assume that Dalton Kincaid, who last time out against his defense went for 6 targets, 5 catches, 60 and a touchdown, has an opportunity of once again putting together a performance in which he's able to rack up the receptions against a division rival that cannot stop opposing tight ends. So again, in this circumstance, very much so an advantageous position for Dalton Kincaid to go more than 3.5 receptions. Then when we talk about Daniel Jones, I mentioned it yesterday and I mentioned it on Thursday in regards to the quarterback rankings video. Daniel Jones, amongst all quarterbacks in the league, is number 2 in terms of passing yards against the blitz. The Atlanta Falcons are number 1 in terms of blitz percentage amongst all teams in the league. This season, the Colts have taken on 3 of the top 7 blitz teams in the league: Pittsburgh, Miami, Denver. In those 3 games, in every single timeout, he has gone 270 or more passing yards. 272, 316, and 342 against Pittsburgh, Miami, and Denver. The pass blocking of this offensive line is more than effective enough to be able to allow him to dice it up down the field. I would assume he's very easily able to accomplish 224.5 passing yards, going more than that number. Additionally, going more than 1.5 passing touchdowns if you're looking in that direction as well. The final player is Chris Olave. He's only once this season gone less than 49.5 receiving yards. So the fact that it's even up there, taking on Carolina, who again, he has a revenge matchup against as they delivered a concussion to him and ended his season last year. There's a possibility in which Chris Olave, taking on this defense that again plays the most zone coverage in the National Football League. He has been a zone killer over the course of his career. Again, I think 49.5, a perfect position. So I'll go ahead and throw that back up on screen in terms of the play for this weekend. Again, going more, can I stop highlighting this? Thank you. Going more than 49.5 receiving yards, 224.5 passing yards, and more than 3.5 receptions, 100 to make 300. I understand the multiplier is not the greatest, but I feel like just the solidification of those plays in my mind makes it worth it on my end. Thank you. Scano sends in a question. Says in a 10-team full PPR, would you rank Kittle, Warren, or Kincaid? Okay, so how would I rank these 3 going into this week? Kincaid number 1, Kittle number 2, Warren number 3. That's the way in which I'm going about it. I'm adjusting it slowly. I've got AJ Brown, Nico, Tedero McMillan, thinking of trading Nico and a tight end for Jefferson. Oh, okay. So if we're talking about rest of season rankings, I'm shipping away Kincaid if I possibly can and keeping Warren and Kittle. That's the way that I'd probably go about it. So, because I don't want to sell Kittle and I really don't want to sell Warren, I would send away Kincaid. He's coming off of a fire week as well. So send away Kincaid and Nico and ship him off for Jefferson there. I think that's a great improvement there theoretically. Thank you. Patrick says, PPR, my Gibbs and Marvin Harrison for Judkins and AJ Brown. Also, pick 3. Yeah, I think I answered this earlier. And actually, maybe I didn't. I think I answered another one of your questions. You were asking about, you asked about HN and Waddle. In the event in which I'm getting Judkins and AJ Brown here, am I willing to make the trade in which I'm getting rid of these 2 players? Let me answer this other question. Pick 3 PPR, Marvin Harrison, Wanda Robinson, ETM, Anungai, Addison. Out of these available options, in a full PPR, if the weather in Seattle is a disaster and there's a disastrous weather in Chicago as well, it leans me towards playing ETN and Monangai, to which at that point, it just becomes a matter of clarifying what the weather looks like in both of these games. Both of them are in the afternoon. Depending on which one looks better, I'd roll in that direction. Probably going to be like a Wando Robinson, ETN, Monangai play for this week. But if in fact, the snow game is going to be a little bit heavy, then you just go Marvin Harrison, ETN, Monangai. Thank you. In regards to trading Gibbs and Marvin Harrison for Judkins and AJ Brown, my only primary question in regards to your question is, are you in the hunt for the playoffs, or are you going to already be secured for a playoff position? That's my only question. Because in the event in which you're already secured for a playoff positioning, at that point, I'm probably leaning towards yes. I'd rather have Judkins and AJ Brown for the fantasy playoffs. But if you're still in the hunt, I think Gibbs and Marvin Harrison's probably the better two to have going forward. Thank you. Rudy, what's up? Says 4 and 5. Gibbs, Javonte, Etienne, Nico, Rice, Flowers, Ladd, Dart, McBride, Waller. Gibbs and Ladd for Buka and Cook. Etienne and Flowers for Judkins, Kittle, Pearsall. Okay, wow. So, looking at the team, Gibbs, Javonte, Etienne. So you got 3 stud running backs, Nico, Flowers, Rice, Ladd. Incredible wide receivers. Dart at quarterback, McBride at tight end, Waller. Beautiful. Glad you picked that up. So, in regards to the potential of trading Gibbs and Ladd McConkey to Buka, no. I'd rather have Gibbs and Ladd. And then in regards to Etienne Flowers for Judkins, Kittle, Pearsall. Look, here's the issue. I don't think I need Kittle here, right? I've got McBride, so I don't see the effective necessity to make this trade. To which I'd rather keep the wide receiver depth. I think both of these situations, you're better off keeping what you have as of right now. Thank you, Rudy. Actually says you skipped me, bro. I thought I answered your question. Oh, you know what it was? Yeah. Whenever I looked at your question, it wasn't typed in here yet. I had forgotten to come back to you. My apologies, actually. It says super chat. Kind of worried about my running back room in a full PPR. Start 7. We have start 7. Geez. Okay. Benson, Judkins, Swift, Harvey, Chase Brown, Charbonnet. Rest of team is Daniels, Mariota, JSN, Abuka, CD, Sutton, Kraft, Jawan Johnson. What's the moves? Okay. So looking at this team in terms of a start 7 capacity. So obviously you're starting Mariota and you're starting JSN, Abuka, and then you have CD out on, okay. So you have Judkins, Swift, Harvey, Chase Brown. I wouldn't even be worried about this team. Like Judkins, Swift, and Chase Brown can do the job going forward. I'm not worried about this running back room at all. So really it's just become the matter of what moves do you want to make? I mean, you need a tight end, brother. I don't think Jawan Johnson's going to cut it, and I don't think that Mariota is going to cut it either. So your biggest necessity is, in fact, not running back. It's tight end and quarterback stability, to which I would look to try to make some moves to try to bring in a quarterback like a Flacco or something like that for future weeks. And I would also try to go make a move for a tight end because Kraft is out for the season, to which if you can go potentially buy low on Kittle right now, I think that's the way we should go about it. So, yeah, buying low on Kittle, potentially an option. I think, you can go out there and get Jared Goff for almost free out there potentially. He could be your starter for the rest of the season, as that would be a better option until Daniels returns. Again, the expectation would be that if, in fact, Daniels was to return, it's like 4 to 6 weeks from now, which, again, they may be out of playoff contention and may not want to bring him back in that kind of a circumstance. Thank you. All righty, let's see here. H-Star Team Production says in a 3-6 team, full PPR double flex format with Mahomes, Dart, Gibbs, Judkins, Brown, Harvey, Chase, Wilson, Tetaroa, Downs, Tez, Watson, Coker, Pitts at my tight end, I lost Scatterbo. Any moves or hold? I mean, looking at the team, as soon as Mahomes finishes his bye week this week, I think it's probably either moving Dart or Mahomes. It's probably easier to move Dart, but in the event in which you can move him in order to bring back some wide receiver depth, I think that's probably the plan of action, because looking at running back, Gibbs, Judkins, Brown, I'm cool with that rest of season. Chase and Wilson, I'm good with. But in a double flex format, full PPR, I would try to get some other wide receiver help here alongside of, Chase and Wilson. Tetaroa and Downs could suffice for a shorter period of time, and so can Tez and Christian Watson. But in the event in which you can move Jackson Dart in order to bring in some wide receiver help, specifically wide receivers who do not have upcoming bye weeks. So what does that specifically entail? I'm looking at, the potential of, as of right now, anybody on the Minnesota Vikings. Unfortunately, there's Chargers and Giants on bye weeks ahead. There's a possibility in which you can go after this week, trade for Marvin Harrison, trade for Rome Odunze, trade for Devontae Smith. Again, I'm just throwing out names. Whether you can or not you'll have to figure that out. Flowers, Pickens, Waddle, Metcalf. Those would be the options of which I go after. Thank you. Waddle has a bye week, so you could avoid him as well. Had a different question. Please check the chat. Okay. You had a different question? Kind of worried about my running back room in a full PPR. Start 7. Benson, Judkins, Swift, Harvey, Chase Brown, Charbonnet. Rest of team is Daniels, Mariota, JSN, Ibuka, CD, Sutton, Kraft, Juwan. What moves to make? Yeah, in regards to that, we already answered that. But what is your other question? I don't see another question, brother. Is it this one? This is from 2024, though. Let me go to the live chat, see what's going on here. Where are you, Akshay? I don't see you in here, Akshay. You might have to retype that in, brother. Let me go ahead and scramble back here. Yeah, I don't see anything else. I had a different question. Please check chat again. Yeah, there's nothing there, brother. Type it in. Stony and Bear sends it a question. Stony, what's up? Type in your question when you get a chance, Stony. Thank you. Just 016 says 5-4, full PPR. Herbert. Okay, we have Herbert at quarterback. Running backs are Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Monangai, and Algier. Brian Robinson. Okay, so you've got your 2 studs, and then you've got their 2 backups, and then you've got an alternative guy for bye week, so head ahead. Okay. Pittman, Rome, T, Tez Johnson, Juwan Jennings, Pierce, Theo Johnson. Question 1, pick 3, wide receiver, flex. Okay. And question 2, any moves? Okay, so question number 1. Obviously, we're playing Herbert, Christian McCaffrey, and Bijan. To which then it becomes a matter of, okay, we're going to play Pittman. T is out on bye week here, so we're going to play Roma Dunze, assuming the weather is... Okay, you know what the thing is? If we need to start 3 wide receiver / flexes, Pittman, Monangai, and then it becomes a matter of it's either Rome or it's going to be Jennings, depending on what the weather looks like. Okay? If the weather's a disaster, you pivot to Jennings, otherwise you play Rome. But you play Monangai and Pittman as your first 2 options there. Any moves to make, theoretically speaking? Again, I would also suggest to you, if there's a possibility in which you could buy low on Kittle, I think I should probably continue to explore that possibility. Otherwise, in terms of improving running back, really going to be impossible to do that for you. Quarterback, also impossible. So it's just a matter of can we improve upon wide receiver, which I do like the potential of T. Higgins and Pittman going forward. Rome Odunze, again, is only going to get better because you can only play at 0.0 points per week for so long. To which, unless you're going to get a trade option to where you can go after... do I even want to go down that path? Not entirely. At a 5-4 record, still trying to kind of squeak in. No, maybe in a full PPR, you can try to explore it and see if Zay Flowers is tradable. If you can go after Zay Flowers, that's probably the option which I would try to go for. Thank you. All right, let's go back up to actually, let's see what happened here. Okay, getting Gibbs and Myers for the Lamb and Hall. Ooh, I don't like that at all. Says full PPR, start 7. Rest of team is Dart, Daniels, Judkins, Harvey, Charbonnet, Chase Brown, Henderson, Parker, Washington, Ibuka, JSN, Otten, and Loveland. Okay. So in this circumstance, getting Gibbs and... Okay, Myers, in my opinion, has no value. To which Lamb and Hall, losing them is tough. But in the event in which... I don't get the trade. But you do have good players. You have Ibuka, you have JSN. And then in this circumstance, you're going to have Judkins, Gibbs, and Chase Brown. And then you'll have Jackson Dart at quarterback. And then you have Cade Otton or Loveland at tight end. You're in a solid position still, even though I don't like the trade. So it's still a really good position to be in terms of the roster overall. But my only question is what is your question? Because I had a different question. Please check the chat again. I don't know what your question is within this team? Is it who do I start this week, or is it what move should I make theoretically? Type that in the chat whenever you get a chance. Thank you. Just type it in the chat. You don't have to send any more supers. All right, let's see here. Mo K sends it a question. Mo, thank you. Says, I need one running back and one flex between Monungai, Vidal, White, Keenan Allen. I'd play Monungai and White. On waivers are Alec. Oh, okay. Half PPR. Not as interested. I'd play Monungai and White there. I think that's the way I'd go about it. Thank you. Appreciate it, Mo. Let me go back up to Stony and Bear, see if they typed in their question. Thank you very much. Says, hi, Andrew. Nice to see you again. I've got a full PPR league. For this week, if Aaron Jones doesn't play, do I pick up Amari DeMercado, Terrell Jennings, Chris Rodriguez? Okay, yeah. Between those available options, I pick up Jennings and I play him. And then it says, would you probably drop Travis Hunter or Ricky Pearsall and pick up a running back? I'd drop Travis Hunter, honestly. That's the rather of the two. I've waited this long for Ricky Pearsall. I'd rather drop Travis Hunter because he's going to be out longer theoretically. All right, let me go back to Akshay, see if they typed in the question. Nothing in the chat yet. Okay. Flotation says, going to make the playoffs. Appreciate all the help, G. Hell yeah, let's do it. Let's see here. King Wrecker. What's up, my man? Says full PPR double flex format. Any trades I can do currently at a 5-4 record with Drake May, Kamara. Okay, yeah, Rashad White. You need running back desperately, brother. Justin Jefferson, Wanda Robinson, David Njoku, Otten, BTJ, Patty, Javante, Mooney, DK, Knight, Zacchaeus. Okay, Pacheco. So technically speaking, for rest of season, you could survive off of Javante, Pacheco, Kamara, and White. But I would like to try to position myself to where I don't have to desperately function in those means. To which, if you have a 5-4 record and you're still needing to make the fantasy playoffs, I mentioned it yesterday. I think one of the more affordable players to potentially trade for right now is David Montgomery with the upcoming schedule they have ahead from weeks 10 through 14. I think there's also a discussion to be made in regards to trading for, I don't know. There was a little bit of a hip drop tackle that injured Dobbins' ankle the other day. I think Harvey rest of season could be a very much so viable piece if Dobbins misses considerable time because of that ankle injury. I think if there's a possibility in which you could go and buy low on Kenneth Walker, the thumbnail of today's live stream, those are three that which I would love to go after. Kenneth Walker, ETN, Montgomery, three very much so affordable players at RB that I think are a necessity for your team. To which if you could possibly string that together and have at least Javante and one of those guys for rest of season, it'd be very much so ideal. Thank you, King. I appreciate it. Actually, let's go back to this. Don't see really a question here. Let me go back to the live chat. Actually, I don't know what's going on with you and your questions here, brother. Mo, not worried about Sean Tucker stealing goal line work? I'm not. Here's the thing. The reality of the situation is there a possibility of it? Yes. But I'm also worried about like Montgomery stealing Gibbs touchdowns, right? But am I going to lessen the overall ranking of Gibbs? Not entirely, right? To where like there are other running backs in the mix to where they have the threat of a teammate killing their value, but sometimes you just have to take the risk. Anthony Marr says, Bert, throw me off. Let's go back to the questions. Okay. I think Caleb is going to move out of the pocket and break down plays. Yeah, it's definitely a big what if. Constantino, what's up? PPR, Tedero, McMillan, Shakir, Jameson. I play Jameson. Actually, it's a full PPR, so it's probably Shakir. No, I'm going to go Jameson Williams. Give me Jameson Williams there. Also, Vidal, Hendo, or Monungai. Give me Monungai. Tom P, what's up? Good vibes. Thank you very much. 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex. We have Gibbs, Singletary, Jordan Mason, Jennings, Flowers, Debo, Dobbs, Shaheed, McBride, Gadsden. Rest of season, thank you. Yeah, in terms of rest of season, we need a running back. I mean, like, we're in trouble. Like, even at wide receiver here, we're not as much trouble because Flowers, Shaheed, Dobbs, Debo, and Jennings will suffice. And at least going forward, you can start both McBride and Gadsden as your tight end and your flex every week. So it's just a matter of, like, can we improve upon RB? To which I'm going to tell you the exact same thing in which I just reiterated. Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, Travis Etienne, Woody Marks are all buy low options that do not have upcoming bye weeks, that I think are very much so viable pieces to where they are very much so affordable in their current state in terms of a potential trade which you can go after. So I would suggest you go in that direction. Try to bring in a running back. Try to make a move in that capacity. If you were super desperate, you could try to go buy low on other players. But, I mean, looking at the rest of the field of fantasy, I don't really see too many opportunities. I mean, it depends. Like, let's say, for example, you're already in a position where you're going to make the playoffs. Then I'm going and trading for Hampton, or I'm going and trading for Bucky, right? Like, that's what presents itself at that point. Actually, I'm getting offered Myers and Gibbs for Lamb and Hall. I'm currently have Lamb and Hall. Got it. So you're being offered that. So definitely not interested. I'd rather have Lamb and Hall rest of the season. It says on the team, in addition to the players I listed, I'm currently 6-3, by the way. My question is if I should trade. Yeah, no. Don't need the trade. Much rather have Lamb and Hall. You're good to go there, brother. It's a really strong team, and having Lamb and Hall is actually the preference for rest of season there. Thank you. John, what's up? Been trying to trade Christian McCaffrey and Lamar. Yeah, listen, I think I messaged you back earlier today. It's a bit easier to trade Lamar, Etienne, Jones, and if I have Moore and Alec Pierce, also Lamar, what do you think? I mean, I'm okay with the trade which we talked about, or at least I responded to you on Patreon earlier today. Let me open that up real quick, and then I can get to it real quick. Let's look at it, John, because I'm okay going for the Christian McCaffrey Lamar trade. I looked at the rest of your team, like Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry are going to be your guys rest of season anyway. So as long as you get into the overall, let's see what it says. It says that was Achane, Jacobs, and Jones. But I told him I can give him Achane and Jacobs. I actually offered him Etienne and Jones for Lamar, giving up on CMC. Okay. I mean, at that point, I'm okay with it. That's fine. I mean, again, I think you can sustain the trade because you have enough running back depth to be able to justify this kind of a move. Because I've looked at your team earlier, and I looked at it earlier today once again. And the fact that you have the potential of, I mean, your roster, let me actually scroll back up here really quickly just so I can look at the rest of it. So you have Rashee Rice, Justin Jefferson, you have Achane, Jacobs, like, and then at this point, like, if you were to increase, or if you were to upgrade that by move, yeah, I'm okay with it. That's fine. Let's go get Lamar. Thank you. Mo says, so White over Pierce, Washington, and Tez. In a full PPR, I would probably just play Parker Washington. But in a half PPR, I have to play Rachaad White. I think I just have to. It's in my DNA at this point. Goff or go with Snow in Chicago? I'd probably play Goff. Appreciate it. All right, let's see here. So going back to your question here in regards to you, Tom. Again, upgrade this. Try to get Kenneth Walker. Try to get David Montgomery. Try to get an ETN. Somebody of that exchange. Thank you. H13 says, also, respect to Theo Johnson play. Does Bellinger being back change anything? I think not only does that change it a little bit, but I think the weather is what's predominantly going to lessen the overall opportunity share of Theo Johnson. But even with Bellinger back, like Bellinger's singular touchdown over the course of the last 6 weeks isn't enough to where I'm like off of Theo Johnson. So again, with Theo Johnson scoring as much as he has in terms of red zone touchdown upside, so I thought Juwan Johnson was the move with Shaheed gone, must win. Yeah, look, I'd love for that to be the must play. Like, I truly do. But again, at the tight end position, when it comes to fantasy football, touchdowns are genuinely, unfortunately, the name of the game on a weekly basis for the tight end position. If it wasn't the case, I mean, I would probably look in the direction of trying to position myself to go elsewhere. But like when I look at like the top 12 rankings at tight ends weekly, like let's look at this most recent week. There were only 2 tight ends this last week that in a full PPR, 3 tight ends this last week out of 12 that in a full PPR ranked in the top 12 without a touchdown. And they had 77, 66, and 68 yards. So unless we're going to, okay, then let's go back to week 8, theoretically speaking, okay? See what other players there are at that capacity. In the top 12, there were only 2 tight ends without a touchdown, okay? One was Kyle Pitts, who had 59 yards on 9 catches in a full PPR. And then the other was Juwan Johnson with 5 catches, 53. So, again, unless you're scoring touchdowns, more often than not, there's very, very little room for potential of getting into that top 12 conversation of the tight end conversation. So, that's why I lean towards Theo Johnson still in this circumstance. Lucas Murray says, 10-team PPR double flex. Pick Gadsden, Slayton, Tony, Slayton. Okay, that's one word. Christian Watson. As of right now, I'm going to go with Gadsden and Christian Watson. If the weather in Chicago is not a problem, I would play Slayton and Gadsden, but I think it's going to be a problem. So expect for Christian Watson and Gadsden to be the plays. Thank you, Lucas. Sir Vancelot, what's up, my man? Sir Vancelot says the following. Says PPR start 3 wide receivers and 1 flex. We have AJ Brown, we have Terrell McMillan, we have Shakir, we have JMO, we have Dobbs, we have Rashad White, Montgomery, we have Njoku. I feel like throwing darts, no clue. Yeah, I think it's not really too much of a throwing dart scenario. I think it's very simply McMillan is injured but not getting opportunity. Shakir could be an afterthought in the offense. So I think AJ Brown, Jamison Williams, and Dobbs are the clear and away 1 through 3 wide receivers. I think that's the way in which I've mentally established it, based on not only utilization shares, but of course the upcoming matchups ahead and the game scripts, which should be explored. So AJ Brown, Jamison Williams, Dobbs are my 1, 2, 3 at wide receiver. Now, as for your flex position, of your available options here, I have to play Rashad White, PPR format, the primary RB there, no Bucky Irving for another consecutive game, expecting at least 4 to 5 receptions. That's the direction I go. Thank you. We had a question here. Says, I'm in a 4 and 5 position with a half PPR league. I have Bijan, Kamara, Marks as my RB options. All right, Breesel, let's see what you have here. Thank you again, Breesel. It says Amon-Ra, Rice, Collins, DJ, Pearsall at wide receiver, Gadsden at tight end, Purdy and JJ at quarterback. Options at flex. 1 flex, 2 wide receiver, 2 running back. Would you be fine with Kamara rest of season, or should I trade? I mean, genuinely, trading away Kamara, you're not going to get anything in return of value. If you can, then yes, you move him. But just off of pure name value, because he's right now not only injured, but also not playing well. So it's just a double situation where I don't want really much to do with Kamara. And I would try to improve upon your RB2 if potentially possible. If we could, take a Kamara and take a Collins and go get a better RB, then let's do that. But in the case of your situation here, 1 flex, double wide receiver, and a running back. I mean, double RB this week is Bijan and Marks. Wide receiver is Amon-Ra St. Brown and Nico Collins. And then as for your flexible play here, it's technically just DJ Moore out of the group. Yeah, that's the way we go about it. And then you just obviously play, you obviously play Gadsden and you play JJ. But for rest of season purposes, yeah, again, like I mentioned before, and I'll continue to reiterate, if you can go and trade for Kenneth Walker, I think that's a great overall suggestion. Jay says, if Swift is healthy, do I start him or Monangai? When they're both going to be healthy tomorrow. Swift is my suggested between the two of them, though. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. How long have we been here for? We've been here for 1:46. We're going to close out the live stream in about 5 or 6 minutes here. Again, I'll be back tomorrow morning as early as 6 a.m. PST, answering questions. And of course, we'll have updated rankings on screen to help you guys out. But if those of you who are looking for my rankings so you don't have to wake up that early and ask questions via the super chats and the live chat in order to try to fend for your your lineups, again, you can always find my rankings via Betr. Again, I've mentioned this before and I'll continue to reiterate. For those of you who sign up using code Andrew, make a first time deposit minimum of 10 and then make a first time play within a real cash play minimum of $1. Just play $1 play. You'll be eligible to get those rankings sent from my email directly to yours at every single position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense, and flex, for both half and full PPR rankings. So these are all encompassing rankings of all available kickers, defenses, and quarterbacks, top 60 running backs, top 80 wide receivers, top 120 flex, etc. So again, make sure you're eligible. There's a link down in the description for those of you who are trying to take advantage of that opportunity. And of course, put together some of the plays like I mentioned. More on Dalton Kincaid, 3.5 receptions, more on 224.5 passing yards for Daniel Jones, and more than 49.5 receiving yards from Chris Olave going into the given week. Now, if Betr is not up to your overall speed and you look to, try to look towards another, potential alternative, you can always sign up via the Patreon and get those similar rankings. They're identical rankings, in fact. And of course, you can ask me direct questions, sending me a message via the Patreon Messenger, or of course, adding me via Discord, joining the Discord server, and then shooting me messages there where you can share screenshots and all that kind of jazz to help you set your lineups. Thank you. Alrighty, let's answer a couple more questions and then we're going to go ahead and close out today's live stream. I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. Ninja, what's up, my man? I know you were in this chat for a while, Ninja. Let's see what you had to say. He says, I'm just saying Caleb Williams. Okay, yeah. I expect him to struggle in the snow. I think he's actually going to, because his passing completion percentage is already not good. If you add a weather implication on top of it, it might not be a great overall situation. Jackson Dart in the weather or Jared Goff in the... I would rather play Jared Goff, genuinely. Stallions production. Stallions, long time no see. Hope you're doing well. It says Darnold or May. I'd rather play Drake May. Buccaneers or Chargers defense? I'd rather play the Chargers defense. Thank you. Let's see here. Leo says, I really started RJ Harvey over Vidal. I got Tracy and Walker. Tracy Walker hopefully can help you. But honestly, at this point, if I was going to play a couple options here, I'd probably play Vidal and Walker ahead of Tracy. Thank you. Let's see here. Domo, what's up? Says in a half PPR, 2 flex, was offered Jamar, Rome, and Kyron, okay, for JT / Christian McCaffrey. My choice of the 2, and Olave. Wide receivers are GP, Downs, lost Evans, Hill, Kraft. 8-1 thoughts. I mean, I probably take it because of the double flex format. Being able to get this kind of depth in return, I think is worthwhile. To which, if I'm going to make this trade, I send away Christian McCaffrey and Olave, and I'll take these 3. That's cool with me. I'll take Kyron, Roman, and Jamar. Now, again, if you do have an additional roster spot, I'd say pick up Corum just in case for Kyron, just to secure that. But yeah, I like the idea of sending McCaffrey and Olave and getting Jamar, Rome, and Kyron back in exchange. Thank you. Goff over Dart, correct. Cyanide, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Says, I need to drop 1 with Aubrey on bye, Charbonnet or Mason. Mason gets the drop. Thank you. Because you have Kenneth Walker, you cannot afford to drop Charbonnet, just in case anything is to happen. Julio says, hi, Andrew. I'm prepping for the last 2 games of the fantasy playoffs. Should I trade Judkins for Kyron? Let me look at the schedule real quick. Thank you. Gabriel, hopefully, or sorry, Julio, not Gabriel. Julio, hopefully you were able to check out my video from yesterday. It has rest of season strength of schedule for all positions. So specifically, I think that video would help you out in incredible volume in terms of setting yourself up for success regarding the potential of rest of season strength of schedule at running back. So looking at the strength of schedule for those final 2 weeks of the season, the Los Angeles Rams get Seattle and they get Atlanta. I have no interest in playing Kyron against Seattle. That's the legitimate second toughest matchup at the position. And then what is your alternative option there, Julio? You had Judkins. The Cleveland Browns take on Buffalo and Pittsburgh. Brother, I don't like either of those 2 players in the final 2 weeks, to be genuine with you. So if I was going to look towards the potential of getting a running back for that period of time, Devon Achane. Cincinnati, week 16. Cincinnati is allowing 6.11 yards per carry on average in the last 5 games. In the last 3 games, Cincinnati has allowed, and they're allowing the last 3 games, opposing running backs to average over 7 yards per carry. Achane, week 16 against Cincy, then week 17 against Tampa. That's the suggestion. Sir Vancelot says, 1 more, Montgomery or Pitts PPR. I'd rather play Pitts against Indy. Thank you. Andrew, I was offline for a bit. Thanks again, man. Let's see what you have here, brother. I have PPR. Should I do Chase and Pickens on bye this week? Please pick 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. Shaheed, Odunze, Gadsden. Okay. So you have Kittle and Gadsden. Is one starting at tight end and the other one is flexible? If that's the possibility, I'd play, Gadsden as my tight end and Kittle in the flex. And then I'd play Odunze alongside of Shaheed this week. In the event in which I have to pick between Kittle and Gadsden, I'm still going to play Gadsden there. Then I'd also, as my flex, and then I'd play again Shaheed and Odunze. Thanks, man. Alrighty, did I miss anything above here? Domo. That's who I forgot to answer. Actually, no, we'll take the trade. That's what I was, yeah, we're good. Okay, cool. Found you today, watched 8 videos. Great content, man. 8 videos? 8? What did you need to watch 8 videos for you? 8 videos, brother? 8? That's crazy. Thank you. I appreciate that. But that seems like a lot. Didn't think you'd answer mine. I appreciate it, Andrew. Listen, I try to answer as many questions as I can. There's a reason why on Sunday mornings I have updated rankings on screen. So again, for those of you like Hugh who may be new to the channel, I literally have my top 36 updated running back and wide receiver rankings on screen tomorrow morning, top 16 quarterbacks and tight ends, and top 12 kickers and defenses on ranks on screen, ready to go. The purpose is to try to help you guys. That's it. I'm trying to help to the best of my ability. Kamikaze, what's up? Says, Andrew, how do you rank these wide receivers? Please, Douglas, Coker, Bourne, Mooney, Keon, Tez Johnson. Okay, Tez Johnson, number 1. I would probably then at that point go with, I don't like any of the other options. Like, genuinely, none of the other ones. They're all sketchy. Coker's last place. Mooney's next to him. Then it would be probably like Keon Coleman. Okay, so it would go like Tez Johnson, Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, Keon Mooney, Coker. Thank you. Gabriel, Let's start 2 quarterbacks: Fields, Mariota, Penix, Jones. I have London and Pitts. Okay. So in this circumstance, if Jones is Daniel Jones, he has to play. And then alongside of Daniel Jones, you could either go with the complete trifecta of all 3 of these potential Atlanta Falcons, or my suggestion is probably just playing Justin Fields there and hoping for rushing upside. But I think it is probably safer just to go with Penix there, because Fields, I mean, again, there's just so much of a sketchiness to where he can get pulled at halftime that starting him in any given circumstance is just too much. Go Penix and Jones. It's just safer that way in a 2 QB format. Evan Flo says, I miss when you used to say guys, it's literally on screen. I mean, I still do, brother. I still do. H13, what's up? It says 4 and 5, PPR, double flex format, Baker and Stafford, Kyron Judkins, Dowdle, Brown, Woody Benson, Rice Buka, Marvin Harrison, Addison. Dak was dropped. Send Woody for Fab and get Dak. My question to you, H13, is this a super flex format? Do you play the guitar in your intro song? Hopefully that answers your question. Yes, I do. Oh, wow, I do. Yes. In regards to the overall, thanks, Steiner. That was funny. Dunze and Shahid, thank you. Okay, so going back to this overall situation, under the assumption that you're saying, hey, Andrew, it's not a super flex format. Yeah, I think I'm assuming, let's say it is a super flex format. It shouldn't have been dropped, but if in fact it is, then yes, you make the swap. But in the event in which it's not, and it's a 1 QB league, like do I need Dak Prescott when I have Baker and Stafford? Honestly, I'd rather just drop Baker for Dak at that point, you know? Not super flex, kept Stafford for matchups. Then I don't know why you need. Okay, so let me look at this overall schedule ahead for Dak Prescott here. I just want to just check it out just so I have an indication as to why you might want to pick him up comparatively. Like, the thing is that Baker Mayfield, until he gets Bucky, Evans, and Godwin back, he's not going to be the same. Like, he is just a shell of himself effectively. And his upcoming schedule ahead is really difficult against New England, Buffalo, the Rams, Arizona, and then New Orleans. Like, Arizona and New Orleans, once we get closer, sure, is great, but the next 3 weeks is tough. And then once he gets into the fantasy playoffs, those are tough matchups as well against division rivals in Atlanta and Carolina. So ultimately, if I'm in your seat, I'm probably trying to position myself. I think I'd rather just have Dak instead of Baker going forward. I think that's what I'm thinking. Dragon Slayer says PPR pick 3, Adunze, Diggs, Travion Henderson, and Tyrone Tracy. The first 3 names are your 3 best players. Tyrone Tracy is not worth it considering Devin Singletary's overall utilization. Thanks, man. Damian Williams says full PPR Henderson or White. I'd rather play White as of this week. Flacco or Dart. Rest of season, Dart. Thank you. Might trade Baker. Yeah, if you're in a position to where you could trade Baker, then you go for it. And you just drop a Woody to accomplish that. But that's the way. Thanks for the deep league. A ton of injuries. Got to go with one of the guys this week. Let's see what you have here, brother. Yeah, Tej Johnson. That's the way. Thank you. G Medina, what's up, my man? Well, it says half PPR. Need to drop one of these wide receivers in order to pick up a defense for this week. Who do I start in the other 2? Okay, let's see what you have here, brother. Type it in the chat whenever you get a chance. Appreciate it. Boy Blue, what's up? It says cut Aubrey for McLaughlin or hold Aubrey through the bye. Would have to cut Christian Watson or Tej Johnson. My only question is, are you going to play either of these 2 in the upcoming weeks? Do you have upcoming bye weeks to justify either playing Christian Watson or Tej Johnson? If not, then I would just drop Tej Johnson and pick up McLaughlin and keep it moving. Thank you. DJ Moore or Japan Jennings. Yeah, I'd rather play Jawan Jennings because the DJ Moore game is implicated to have a weather implication of a snow game there. Pedro says, I have New England's defense. Should I pick up the Colts defense or Jets? Specifically for this week in specific, I would rather pick up... I don't want the Jets defense. Am I playing the Colts over New England's defense? The thing is, I'm not going to drop New England because their upcoming schedule, like 3 of the next 5 games are relatively advantageous, but I think I'd rather have probably the Colts this week. Standard, drop 1, Gaston or Goddard. I'd rather keep Gaston for the rest of the season. Goddard would be the drop. Anonymous says full PPR pick 1. Tedero McMillan is out. JCM, Woody or Kittle? Kittle. Thank you. All right, guys. I think that's what we're going to call it there. I appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel as you guys continue to do so on a daily basis and, of course, on a weekly basis via these live streams. Again, I'll be back as early as 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. I've been here for about 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I think that's what we're going to call it. No, not 2 hours and 10 minutes. We're about to be here for an hour and 57. But yeah, typically 2 hours is where we like to keep it here on Saturdays. I appreciate y'all. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Again, like I mentioned before, if you guys want those rankings, complete the 3 steps process via Betr by signing up, making that first time deposit, and making that first time play within a real cash play, and get those rankings every week for the remainder of the season, weeks 10 through 18, every single Sunday morning. Or, of course, check out the Patreon. Or, of course, swing on by tomorrow and ask the questions, and I'll be more than happy to help you guys out as I'll be streaming for 4 straight hours tomorrow morning. Love you guys. Appreciate it. Outside of that, G Medina, I'm looking for the follow-up of your question. Says, sorry, Dobbs, Jennings, or Garrett Wilson to start, drop 1. Okay, so if I need to drop one of them, so Garrett Wilson and Dobbs are my starters. That's first and foremost. If I have to drop one of these, if I have to drop one, it's Jennings. Thank you. All right, that's going to cover it. Appreciate it. And I will see you guys tomorrow, bright and shiny early. Hopefully I'll get some hours of sleep. But without further ado, like we were saying, do I play the guitar intro? Yes, I do. Enjoy it. Peace.